After Baki won the Japanese heavyweight championship belt, he was only 17 years old and still went to school with books and pens like any other kid. Of course, every school has its bullies who pick fights with others. He heard that Baki had transferred in without greeting him, so he planned to teach Baki some manners. But when they saw Baki's incredibly cool expression, the three of them could only tremble in fear. Seeing that, Baki quietly returned to class and wondered if anyone dared to fight him. Tokugawa paid a visit to Baki's school. He came to inform him about 5 death row inmates who had escaped. And all of them were heading to Tokyo to find the strongest fighter. First was the death row inmate named Dorian. On the day of his execution he still followed legal procedures. It seemed everything would go smoothly. But suddenly he sprang up and wiped out all the guards. And the prison was shaken by this savage act. At another prison, a death row inmate named Doyle was seated in the electric chair. The warden executed him with 100.000 volts of electricity, thinking he had died from the shock. But unexpectedly Doyle stood up and quickly took everyone down. Elsewhere, in a prison in Russia with ballistic missile facilities, a death row inmate named Sakorski climbed a metal wall hundreds of meters high. He left no trace behind. Although the military sent troops to search, they still couldn't stop or capture him. Next was a death row inmate named Spec, extremely dangerous and locked inside a cell. When the warden came to inspect, he was so frightened he nearly lost his pants, because he saw that Spec was no longer in the cell. Meanwhile, another inmate named Yanagi was calmly practicing calligraphy, because he was a master poison user. He was isolated behind a special type of glass. 2 guards were terrified when they saw him approach. Yanagi used a bit of his skill, just to show off to them, and one foolish guard shot and shattered the glass tank, sealing his fate instantly. Although these 5 inmates had no connection to each other, they shared the same goal, to find the strongest fighter. Of course, they wanted to know what defeat felt like. While danger was drawing near, suddenly the 3 guys at school called their seniors over, clearly wanting help to defeat Baki. Followed by flashy displays of skill to prepare for battle. They agreed to send a chubby representative to invite Baki to the park for a martial arts exchange. Baki found it interesting and accepted. At the park both sides officially met. One of them approached Baki holding a knife. But as he was about to attack, he sensed danger and stopped. Another threw a chain weapon at Baki, showing impressive technique, but it was still far slower than Baki's speed. Another rushed in with a professional knife attack, then realized the knife was gone. It was now in Baki's hand, leaving everyone shocked and afraid. Suddenly a death row inmate appeared, the first to find Baki. He displayed his madness by injuring himself. He desperately wanted to fight Baki. The 2 shook hands just to add some drama. And the main event was a kick straight into Baki's stomach. Afterward he slammed Baki to the ground, repeatedly stomping him and driving him deep into the earth. Just then the police arrived at the scene. But Spec said today was only a greeting gift. He hoped for an official fight with Baki later, and didn't forget to give him one more kick to the face. Meanwhile the police urgently planned to capture these dangerous inmates. While the captain was using the restroom he noticed someone beside him. It turned out to be Spec casually relieving himself. He even bought buns for the captain. But that kindness turned cruel when the captain kicked him. So Spec shoved all the buns into the captain's mouth. Inside a martial arts training hall, Retsu sparred with Katsumi. They had a beautiful exchange with flying kicks, amazing the students with admiration. They kept chatting about preserving martial arts culture. When suddenly Dorian walked in looking for Dopo to challenge. But Katsumi told him to take off his shoes first. Dorian complied without hesitation and tossed them aside. And instantly a kick flew in. Although he did not intend to act that way. But seeing Katsumi's rudeness, he decided to teach him a lesson. Katsumi countered the attack and quickly drove his knee into Dorian's face. But unexpectedly Dorian played dirty and retaliated with a plank throw. Then Dorian lost interest and chose to leave. But things weren't that easy when it came to Retsu. Dorian acted frightened and burst into tears. Then pulled another dirty trick that forced Retsu to react immediately. Not wanting trouble, Dorian took out some liquor and drank a bit. Then he used another dirty move, breathing fire with the alcohol to escape. Retsu was furious that he dared to cause chaos in the dojo. Meanwhile Tokugawa was recruiting fighters for his tournament. The arrogance of a newly famous fighter prompted Sakorski to check on him. Sakorski didn't waste words and immediately taught the arrogant man some manners. Sakorski wanted to warn Tokugawa, because he hadn't been invited to participate in the tournament. The paramedics arrived and rushed the rising fighter to the hospital. But Igari felt irritated and punched Sakorski directly. Yet no matter how Igari punched, it was like hitting solid rock. Sakorski figured Igari also wanted a ride in the ambulance. So he kicked him hard and sent him flying into the vehicle. Sakorski then added a few more scars to Igari's face. Tokugawa witnessed this and was terrified by the scene. So he brought Sakorski to his arena. Surprisingly, the other 4 death row inmates had gathered there as well. Naturally, the 5 wanted Tokugawa to find Japan's strongest fighters to challenge. Even more surprising, Baki and the top masters had also arrived. Both sides went over the rules of a 5-on-5 match. But this time it was different. Fights didn't have to take place in an arena. Because they could battle any opponent they wanted. Anywhere could become a battlefield. In short, if they met, they could fight, regardless of where they were or what they were doing. Dopo was very interested in Dorian, because he had dared to disrupt his dojo before. Dopo quickly threw a basket into Dorian's face, and instantly followed with a kick to his head. But Dorian used his flame-breathing trick to burn Dopo. Luckily, Dopo had his own secret technique to block the flames. Dorian continued using dirty tricks against him, causing Dopo's hand to be cleanly severed. To him, modern martial arts weren't just about muscle power, but also about mastering science and technology. Dorian believed combining all of that would terrify opponents. He even praised Dopo. Although he had lost his hand, Dopo used internal power to stop the bleeding in his arm. Then astonishingly, that severed hand struck Dorian's face spectacularly. Afterward, both of them disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, Baki was walking with the landlord's daughter. They were strolling through the streets on a date. Suddenly some thugs tried to extort them. With his cool composure, Baki knocked one down and fixed his clothes. The whole group didn't dare act after witnessing that. Night fell and the two shared intimacy together. Holding hands, Baki confessed sweet words and gave her a gentle kiss. But just as things got romantic, Spec showed up to ruin it. Fortunately, Hanayama stepped in to help. Hanayama and Spec agreed to meet at an open lot to spar. Spec attacked first. Hanayama didn't say much and simply displayed his muscles. Across his back was a tattoo passed down through generations. Spec rushed forward, punching him, followed by combos using his shoes. He managed to push Hanayama into a lamppost, then slammed a bench at him as well. But Hanayama remained unharmed and never fell. Spec found Hanayama's stance amusing and imitated it, continuing to mock him. Then Spec charged again, throwing hundreds of punches in a flurry. Hanayama could only defend himself without a chance to counter. He was cornered as the attacks grew faster and faster, to the point they were impossible to count. Hanayama seized an opening and delivered a knockout punch. That single blow left his opponent trembling and unable to stand. Hanayama used his Cannon Guardian technique, striking Spec with a punch that nearly killed him on the spot. But things were not that simple. Hanayama kept raining down punches like thunder. Yet Spec never lacked dirty tricks. He quickly shoved bullets into Hanayama's mouth, and then they exploded. Astonishingly, Hanayama was still alive. Although badly injured, he still punched Spec into a utility pole. Afterward, he brought him to the police station to turn him in. The police chief thanked Hanayama greatly, and ordered officers to drive him home. But the driver pressed the gas and the car wouldn't move, because Spec was holding the vehicle and tossed it aside. As Hanayama climbed out, Spec ambushed him with an iron bar. Even though he tried to retreat, Spec seized the chance for a life-or-death fight. Using any dirty method, he attempted a finishing blow to Hanayama's mouth but failed. Then Hanayama's turn came. He unleashed a crushing punch at his opponent, forcing Spec to deploy a flash bomb. Afterward, Spec reversed the situation and choked him. Hanayama countered with a shifting strike that made Spec scream. But Spec stabbed at his head with his fingers. Meanwhile, Hanayama used all his strength to crush his throat and defeat him. Afterward, Spec was hospitalized for recovery. Yet his body withered like that of an 80-year-old man, causing doctors and scientists to study the condition. Meanwhile, Baki was heading home. Suddenly someone launched a sickle at him. And that person was Yanagi. His masterful chain sickle display even made Baki tremble. He unleashed lethal attacks meant to kill him. Seeing Baki was still inexperienced, Yanagi tossed him a sickle as a weapon, and the two continued their fight. Though old, Yanagi remained sharp, striking at high speed so Baki could only evade. Fortunately, Shibukawa arrived in time to help. He taunted Yanagi, driving him into rage. Yanagi attacked, but Shibukawa read him and defeated him instantly. Unable to bear the humiliation, Yanagi struck back and injured Shibukawa. Villains always seem to carry mysterious tricks. So Baki and Shibukawa teamed up against Yanagi, coordinating well to counter him. But Baki lacked experience and missed the chance to finish him. Finally, Yanagi unleashed his 5 poisons technique. His words about toxins put Baki into a hypnotic state. Yanagi stepped forward and slapped him across the face. The strike knocked Baki unconscious to the ground. Because Yanagi's poison had burned away the oxygen in his body, Shibukawa stood stunned, never having seen such a case. Then Yanagi demonstrated his poison technique further, creating a high-pressure compressed air force, capable of destroying objects within a limited range. When police arrived, he fled the scene, but not before kicking Baki to wake him up. Afterward, Tokugawa held an emergency meeting with the fighters, because the battles had become unbalanced, as champions were being defeated by unknown criminals. He urged everyone to use any means necessary to win, because if they kept fighting by arena rules, they would all die at the hands of those men. Hanayama grew angry at what he said. He was about to punch him but realized the man was old and wouldn't live much longer. So he let it go. Dorian brought a barrel of gasoline intending to gift it to everyone. But unfortunately, Katsumi also arrived. He quickly grabbed the lighter and kicked the fuel can toward him, striking Dorian down to the floor with a series of blows. Katsumi asked if he wanted to burn together with him. Dorian was frightened and didn't dare resist. And then he burst into flames before everyone's eyes. Retsu believed he couldn't possibly be defeated like that, so he charged forward to attack. Sure enough, Dorian was still very strong. Seeing this, Katsumi introduced a friend to join the fight. Kato stepped in immediately, punching Dorian until he screamed and brutally tearing off part of his ear. But Dorian seized the chance and bound both Katsumi and Kato with threads, intending to finish them both at once. Luckily, Dopo intervened in time to stop him. Dopo didn't want Dorian playing dirty tricks anymore. Dorian felt he had no escape left, so he vomited a grenade from his mouth. The room exploded instantly, and Dorian escaped to his hidden hideout. There he treated his wounds. But unexpectedly, Kato had followed him, and went down to confront him. Although Dorian had no interest in fighting Kato, he responded because Kato was so eager. He smashed liquor bottles on the floor, then coated his fists with glue and crushed glass, sticking shards onto them, completing his sharp spiked punch. He told Kato to come at him, but battle-hungry Kato feared nothing, throwing a barrel at him and narrowly dodging the counterattack, then rushing in to kick Dorian, yet causing no injury at all. Dorian returned with painfully brutal blows. Thinking Kato too weak, he simply stood there blocking attacks, then exploited openings with underhanded strikes, while humming songs, combining them with attacks that dropped Kato in agony. Kato grabbed bottles and smashed them, then leapt up and shattered the rest over Dorian's head, attacking relentlessly without hesitation, thrilled that he could take initiative against him, unleashing mysterious techniques that exhilarated him. But in truth, Kato had only been dreaming. He had been trapped in Dorian's hypnosis. The dream elevated his emotions, while in reality Dorian delivered a finishing blow, and then ended Kato's life. At the dojo, Retsu was practicing Qigong. He prepared to punch a sandbag but sensed something wrong, splitting it open in two, discovering Kato inside barely alive. Afterward, the entire dojo gathered together to discuss the incident, informing students nationwide to hunt Dorian in revenge for Kato. After discovering Dorian dining at a restaurant, students escorted him to a park, where he received an enthusiastic welcome from everyone. Dorian repaid their hospitality by showing the driver the meaning of overwhelming strength. When he entered, he met the park manager, who let him enjoy childhood rides and games, and he delighted in playing them. But suddenly Sudo kicked away the chair he was sitting on, then charged forward with attacks to avenge Kato. He surprised Dorian because this opponent was no pushover. so he decided that escaping would be the best strategy. But Sudo chased after him without realizing he was being deceived. The two ended up on a roller coaster car. Sudo began to feel afraid since he was used to fighting on the ground. Never in conditions this difficult. Dorian took advantage and lunged in to choke him. Thinking Sudo was weak, he toyed with him. Sudo recalled Dopo teaching him about balance, and successfully applied it to stand firm on the moving car. He felt exhilarated turning the tables on Dorian. But suddenly Dorian grabbed him and leapt off the train, plunging from high above to see who would hit the ground first. Naturally Sudo was badly injured, because Dorian cheated by hooking a thread onto a pole to soften his landing. Katsumi arrived along with Retsu and Dopo. Upon hearing what Dorian had done to their dojo, Katsumi volunteered to fight him. But Dopo claimed the match since he wanted revenge for his hand. Dopo stripped off his clothes, leaving only his legendary pants known as Tiger Slayer. He charged forward throwing warm-up punches at Dorian, also revealing a surprise. His hand had been successfully reattached. Earlier he had visited a trusted doctor, asking him to reconnect it. Even with limited medical tools, the surgery succeeded. Seeing this, Dorian prepared for battle, but Dopo rushed in and landed several powerful punches to his stomach. The two exchanged an impressive flurry of blows. Dorian was astonished by Dopo's karate, but claimed he could do the same, demonstrating some moves himself, then exploited an opening with another dirty trick. Yet it failed against a karate master like Dopo. Dorian switched to crying and begging, which intrigued Dopo. Unaware he had fallen under hypnosis, Dopo began performing beautiful karate strikes at empty air. Dorian declared the game over, deciding to end the match, but accidentally touched Dopo's hand, triggering an instant counterattack. Dopo delivered a devastating hook to his jaw, sending Dorian collapsing to the ground, followed by finishing blows that made him scream. Although Dorian tried to counter, it was meaningless. He used a hidden weapon to strike Dopo, but it was blocked, leaving him in pain. Dopo continued displaying superior karate mastery, unleashing powerful blows as if to shatter him, followed by another hook. Dorian realized defeat was near, but Dopo wanted the final blow for Kato. Though he was severely injured, in a wheelchair and under care, his fighting spirit pushed him to rise. It seemed the end would come easily. Yet Dorian pretended to cry pitifully, bringing everything to a halt. Afterward, doctors found an explosive chip hidden in his hand. That night he came to Dopo's home, launching a suicidal bombing ambush, knocking Dopo unconscious. Dorian sang triumphantly of his victory. On the way back he encountered Retsu. Retsu wasted no time and engaged him, delivering a crushing 1,000-pound punch that knocked him out instantly, then escorting him to the police station. But he was no longer normal. The blow had shaken his brain badly, reducing him mentally to a child who only wanted candy. Meanwhile, Baki's girlfriend was lost in intoxicated thoughts about him. Suddenly Sakorski sneaked into her room. He covered her mouth and warned that if she resisted he would deal with her immediately. She tried to suppress her fear, because she loved Baki and had to stay calm. But Sakorski still tried to harass her. Fortunately, Baki rushed in just in time to stop something terrible from happening. He punched Sakorski to teach him some manners for touching his girlfriend. Baki was furious about this, grabbing him and throwing him outside for a one-on-one fight. But when Baki stepped out, Sakorski had disappeared. When he went back in to check, his girlfriend was gone as well. The city police chief visited Oliva, asking for his help in capturing dangerous criminals running rampant. After walking a while, Oliva sensed the scent of an old acquaintance. He bid the chief farewell and promised to catch the criminals. Meanwhile, Baki's girlfriend had been kidnapped by Sakorski to a high-rise hotel. But it wasn't his idea. Baki's father had ordered him to do it, wanting to provoke Baki's anger. Sakorski sat with a monstrously powerful man, excitedly launching a kick at Yuhiro. But the attack was blocked, and he was mocked for being weak. Oliva arrived wanting to toy with Sakorski. At that moment, Baki burst in and saw his girlfriend unclothed, which drove him into a rage. He attacked with ferocious blows as if to finish his opponent. His final punch sent Sakorski flying out of the building. Oliva insulted him, causing Baki to turn and punch him as well. Fueled by anger, he feared no one, but he realized his attacks had no effect. Suddenly Sakorski returned and resumed fighting Baki. The two clashed without mercy. But when police arrived, Sakorski fled. Baki wouldn't let it end like this. Since Sakorski had kidnapped his girlfriend, he went straight to Sakorski's hideout, ready to continue their unfinished fight. Sakorski hadn't even finished putting on his pants, yet he started fighting anyway to warm up. Indeed, fighting over a girl made them both reckless and fast. Baki unleashed a barrage of punches that stunned him, adding a direct blow to a vital spot that left Sakorski reeling. Oliva appeared again, boasting. Baki's pride flared and he struck him again. Oliva explained he was hunting Sakorski. Hearing that, Sakorski got up and attacked him. His attacks were meaningless against Oliva. Oliva simply flexed his muscles and punched him, sending him flying outside unclothed. Oliva thus captured the first escaped convict for the chief. Afterward, he searched police files for the second convict. A policewoman brought him coffee. But after drinking, he sensed something odd. Of course, Dolly had disguised himself as an officer, striking Oliva, injuring him. Yet Oliva was delighted his prey came willingly. Suddenly his wound was poisoned. Dolly delivered a powerful blow, which snapped Oliva back to alertness. Then struck him again, this time knocking Oliva unconscious. But defeating him so easily was impossible. Oliva grabbed Dolly's leg and slammed him down. Dolly could only endure against such strength. When Oliva seized him, he was cut by razor blades on the collar. Dolly stabbed him with a dagger and kicked him 100 times. Yet such attacks meant little to Oliva. The police chief and Shibukawa arrived. The two only saw the chaotic aftermath of the fight. Dolly escaped through the ventilation route and got away. Meanwhile, the Shinshinkai dojo witnessed Koso's performance firsthand. All the members were surprised, because the art of jujutsu can cut objects using only fingers. He came here with the goal of defeating the death row inmate Dolly. At the same time, Dolly was checking his weapons. This made Captain Stridham feel afraid. He knew those weapons could cause damage to opponents. Not only that, Dolly even demonstrated the power of his punches to him. But surprisingly, Koso arrived to meet Dolly soon after. Of course, he came to challenge Dolly. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately struck Dolly. That blow made him struggle to breathe. The reason was that Koso's attack was extremely strong. After that, although Dolly used his secret weapon, he still took a crushing elbow strike from Koso. Then came the piercing finger strike using 4 of his fingers. Dolly tried a trick by pretending to shake hands and activated his steel punch. This attack caused pain to Koso's mouth. This time Dolly activated all the weapon functions in his body. Koso trembled upon witnessing it. As he rushed in to punch, he was hit by a bomb and collapsed to the ground. Captain Stridham shook his head at Dolly's dirty tactics. He didn't expect Dolly to resort to any means just to win. Meanwhile, Baki was making progress with his girlfriend. One night while he was sleeping, she entered his room and hugged him. The warmth of skin contact made Baki extremely uncomfortable. Just as it seemed they might share intimacy, his father suddenly arrived, truly a master of ruining tense moments like that. He even encouraged Baki to enjoy his girlfriend from morning to night. He bluntly said such things in front of his son's girlfriend. Hearing it made her feel frightened. Baki promised her they would meet again so he could learn some impressive skills. He assured he would make her very happy. Retsu and Dolly met at a bar. The two of them had a conversation about martial arts. But Retsu disliked that Dolly defeated opponents using dirty tricks. So they started punching each other right there in the bar. Afterwards, Retsu used Dolly's own techniques to show him how they felt. Dolly panicked when facing such a cool opponent. Retsu then threw a series of flying knives at Dolly. Dolly took all the knives and couldn't dodge any. So he had no choice but to run away immediately. But there was no escaping from Retsu. Although Dolly tried to fight back with dirty tactics, it seemed he had no chance against Retsu. Retsu drew a blade and performed a masterful sword display, causing Dolly to scream in pain. Dolly took 2 hits and tried to run again. Realizing he couldn't escape, Dolly used a smoke bomb to distract his opponent. Then he successfully stabbed Retsu in the back of the neck. Retsu immediately got angry and rushed forward with hundreds of punches. Dolly was ready to taste defeat. Retsu didn't stop there and pulled out his staff to release the remaining knives. He continued finishing Dolly for his foul play. He delivered several hundred more strikes as punishment for fighting dirty. Retsu prepared to deliver a finishing blow. Suddenly Jack appeared and injected Retsu with a sedative. Afterwards Jack told Dolly to go recover. Because his opponent now was Jack himself. Jack is Baki's half-brother. To obtain his current absolute strength, Jack used many stimulants. He shares Baki's goal of becoming the strongest. Dolly left following Jack's words. But then thieves tried to pickpocket Retsu. So he taught them a lesson. Next, even a dog wouldn't leave Retsu alone. So Dolly decided to stay overnight to watch over him. In the morning Retsu was surprised Dolly had guarded him all night. Then Retsu quickly took him to the Shinshinkai dojo for treatment. He overcame many obstacles to arrive there as soon as possible. Finally, Dolly's life was saved, and afterward, Retsu prepared a lavish meal to help him recover his strength. But the next day Dolly returned to the dojo. His purpose was to thank everyone for saving him. To repay that kindness, he put on protective gear. Then he scattered explosive chemicals around the dojo. He lit them and blew up the dojo. That's what people call biting the hand that feeds you. But unfortunately for him, he ran into Dopo on the way. Dopo couldn't believe he dared destroy his dojo. He declared that today Dolly's life would end here. Dopo kept hurling insults that drove Dolly furious. Unable to hold back, Dolly attacked first. Unexpectedly, Dopo countered and told him to follow him to an open field for a one-on-one fight. There, Dopo allowed him to use his secret weapons. Dolly angrily charged and again, Dopo unleashed karate strikes, landing hundreds of punches that knocked Dolly unconscious. When he woke up, Dolly was back inside the Shinshinkai dojo. This time he faced Katsumi. Although he had second-degree burns from the explosion, his limbs were still strong enough to fight. Katsumi rushed forward and kicked Dolly unconscious again. The fight kept repeating every time Dolly woke up. Since it was the final match, he was given a mercy meal. After eating, both prepared to continue the fight. Dolly couldn't resist, so Katsumi finished him with a final punch. Afterwards he called a doctor to save him and left. The next day Dolly sought out Katsumi to thank him and accept defeat. Meanwhile, Baki's girlfriend eagerly awaited a passionate reunion. She arranged to meet him that day. After reading her letter, Baki ran off to find her. The moment was perfect as both desired intimacy. Unable to wait any longer, they embraced passionately. Their hearts were filled with excitement together. At last, young Baki experienced his first time. They spent days together from morning to night, neglecting food and drink. Afterwards they planned to go eat and recover their strength. Suddenly Yanagi appeared to challenge Baki. Unfortunately for him, Baki was overflowing with newfound energy. They agreed to settle the fight in an open area. Baki attacked first. His strikes were extremely dangerous, leaving Yanagi shocked and surprised. This was the vigor of youth stepping into adulthood. But Yanagi's counterattacks were sharp and formidable. Baki took a painful hit. Yanagi pressed the advantage with several more blows. But Baki recognized the technique and imitated it, landing a bone-piercing punch on Yanagi. Both exchanged that technique back and forth. Yanagi couldn't endure and fell down. As Baki prepared to finish the fight, Sakorski rushed in to help Yanagi. Since Baki was now much stronger, he faced them both. The two trembled and hesitated to attack him. Baki threw Sakorski into Yanagi, then grabbed them both and struck them again. Yanagi couldn't understand why his poison attacks didn't affect Baki. Baki continued attacking to end the battle. Hanayama had been watching the fight. He guessed Baki had gained newfound strength after losing his innocence. Baki had matured into a young man. He carried his girlfriend home to continue their affection together. Hanayama refused to fight Yanagi and Sakorski. This humiliated Yanagi greatly. Meanwhile, Katsumi escorted Dolly to the harbor to leave. Dolly suddenly asked to spend a short time learning karate. Katsumi agreed to teach him as requested. Their bond grew stronger. Afterwards Katsumi had to return home. Dolly stayed waiting for the ship at the dock. Yanagi appeared again, disgusted by their connection. Seeing Dolly as useless, he decided to eliminate him. Yanagi punched one of Dolly's eyes, blinding his remaining eye. Dolly panicked and activated all of his weapons. Yanagi used his cord to wrap around and choke him, then struck him, sending Dolly falling onto the ship. Just as Dolly climbed back up, Yanagi delivered a finishing judgment strike. but Dolly's hardened arm chipped Yanagi's blade. Realizing things were hopeless, Dolly let go and fell into the sea. Meanwhile, Sakorski encountered Jack. The two fought inside a restroom. Jack attacked first, but Sakorski used his advantage to counter. However, the gap in strength and size was too great, and Jack overwhelmed him. Afterwards, they had a tactical standoff in a public phone booth. Despite the cramped space, both could still strike. Sakorski used his smaller frame to unleash rapid punches, leaving Jack to endure the assault. Furious, Jack used a gravity-like punch that launched the booth into the air. Each strike made the phone booth flip over. When Jack stepped out, everything had settled. Sakorski was then taken by car to an arena. There he would fight as a proper martial artist. Thousands of spectators awaited their match. Jack removed his clothes to begin round 2. Sakorski charged and attacked first. His relentless offense caused pain to his opponent. But despite his effort, Jack's overwhelming power prevailed. Sakorski was thrown away like a toy. He resorted to dirty tactics again. Before he could act, Jack kicked him into the stands. Sakorski grabbed weapons from the audience area to fight back, yet they had no effect on Jack's body. He then fired a nail toward Jack's head. Surprisingly, Jack caught the nail in his mouth with his teeth. Sakorski wondered if he was even human. Seeing Sakorski as too weak, Jack sent in his partner instead. This angered the spectators. They doubted whether this fighter matched Jack's strength. Gaia demonstrated his lion's roar, shaking the arena. The crowd fell silent in shock. Gaia showed Sakorski some tools he carried, but promised not to use them. Instead, he relied on other methods. He mixed pebbles into sand to attack. When thrown, Sakorski screamed under the impact. He endured consecutive hits without resisting. Gaia then kicked sand into the air, creating a thick cloud of dust. Gaia concealed himself completely within it, leaving Sakorski disoriented and unaware of his location. Camouflaged in the sand, Gaia struck again. Sakorski couldn't defend properly. Gaia embodied fear for his opponent, delivering psychological pressure that haunted him. Facing the next strike, Sakorski felt overwhelming terror. He broke down and begged for mercy. Elsewhere, Yanagi was challenged by the fighter Motobi. Though little was known about Motobi, Yanagi feared no one. Motobi rushed forward and threw a sword at his leg, then used a chain to sweep him down. As Yanagi lifted his head, he was struck again. Yanagi drew his sickle weapon in response. While he displayed his technique, Motobi suddenly left. Confused, Yanagi didn't understand. Suddenly Motobi grabbed him and slammed him into metal bars. Yanagi attempted to use his poisonous hand. Before acting, Motobi leapt and struck him down. Motobi drew his sword and demanded surrender. Unexpectedly, Yuhiro arrived to watch. Motobi recklessly pointed his blade at Yuhiro. Yuhiro snapped the sword in demonstration. Motobi froze in shock. Yuhiro told Yanagi to accept defeat, but Yanagi stubbornly refused. Enraged, Yuhiro delivered a thunderous punch. As for Dolly, he survived and hid in a cave after falling into the sea. But he could no longer see anything. Oliva may have already found him. Dolly remained very resilient, daring to fight him despite being unable to see. Oliva examined his eye and realized it had been poisoned. Oliva immediately drove a knee into Dolly. The prisoners' year-long challenge had come to an end. All 5 of them met bitter endings at the hands of Japan's top masters. Alai paid a visit to Yuhiro. He wished to carry on his father's boxing legacy, so the two exchanged some light sparring. This greatly pleased Yuhiro. He felt his friend's son had real spirit. As Alai threw a strike, his glove flew off. Just one kick from Yuhiro made him break into a sweat. Yuhiro then performed an even more impressive technique. It was a move where he laid down and observed the opponent's motion. He once used it against Alai's father. The technique left opponents unsure how to respond. Now Alai experienced it firsthand. Yet Alai refused to counter such techniques. Instead, he insulted Yuhiro by claiming victory, saying Yuhiro lost because he lay down voluntarily. Yuhiro was shocked at the boy's bold disrespect. He warned not to cross paths again, otherwise Alai would taste consequences. To enter the Great Arena Tournament, Alai had to prove himself before the Balin faction. There he tested his strength against their disciples. His overweight opponent repeated an old trick of collapsing on the ground. Ali sat down and responded with continuous kicks. But the tactic was too familiar to him. The opponent took successive knockout punches. Ali delivered a final finishing blow. He performed well and was accepted into the tournament. Then the century-held event officially began. Masters from 12 factions participated. The legendary champion also joined. At 145 years old, he entered to heighten the drama. The committee invited 3 additional fighters this year. Ali from the United States, the monster Yujiro, and of course the protagonist Baki. Next came the match pairings. Ryu was matched against Yujiro. Unaware of Yuhiro's monstrous strength, officials required a preliminary test. He had to shatter 40 roof tiles at once. Yujiro laughed, calling it child's play. The match then began. Ryu boasted about his refinement and skill. He attacked Yujiro with a piercing finger strike. Unexpectedly, Yujiro grabbed his face, then slammed him onto the ground repeatedly. Ryu was carried away afterward. A disciple wanted to fight in his place, but Ryu stopped him. He attempted trickery against Yujiro. Unfortunately, he faced the strongest man alive. One knee strike from Yujiro ended everything. Backstage, Baki's girlfriend met Ali. She cried in worry for Baki's fight. In her vulnerability, Ali embraced her. He offered sweet, comforting words. The second match featured Ali against Joe. As it began, both charged forward. Joe struck first with his massive leg. Ali hit Joe in a vital spot. Joe hopped around in agony. He fought through pain and counterattacked, but couldn't touch Ali. A small opening let Ali retaliate. Joe collapsed unconscious. Victory went to Ali. Meanwhile, Baki trained intensely despite his lean body. His girlfriend cried in worry. Unable to help, the third preliminary match continued. Baki faced Lee, known for his poisonous hand. Baki initiated with a kick. His leg was poisoned. He bit the wound and sucked out the tainted blood. Lee extended a hand in greeting. They clasped hands. Baki was poisoned again, but Lee was slapped and knocked away. Lee once again pretended friendliness. Baki took blows all over his body. The poison spread throughout him. When he rushed forward, he collapsed as the toxin took effect. His girlfriend could only cry and plead beside him. Those tears somehow helped him. They allowed Baki to purge the poison from his body. This surprised many spectators. Lee attacked again, but his strikes were now useless against Baki. They entered a serious duel. Baki regained control of the fight. His punches rained down on Lee. Lee stood frozen and lost. After winning, Baki thanked his girlfriend. He promised to spend more time with her after the tournament. Retsu prepared delicious food for Baki. It was meant to restore his strength after the deadly match. Baki appreciated it and ate ravenously. The feast left him stuffed. Retsu filled a bucket with water and natural sugar. He stirred it and told Baki to drink it all. After drinking, Baki felt his body heating up. He was absorbing restorative energy. Meanwhile, Kaku criticized Yujiro. He pointed out flaws in Yuhiro's inability to control power. He lectured about the instincts of craving strength. The next match featured Kaku versus a Chinese master. People doubted what such an old man could do. After analysis from a young observer, the opponent attacked but missed. Suddenly Kaku pulled down his pants. One flick to a vital point knocked him unconscious. Reporters questioned Kaku afterward. He casually explained his strange technique. The Chinese fighter felt humiliated before thousands. Yujiro mocked him. He tried to respond. Yujiro knocked him down again. Meanwhile, Baki rested beside his girlfriend. He dreamed of her caring for him. He soon woke up refreshed. His muscles were restored. The next fight was Dorian versus Zo. Zo opened with a kick. He followed with rapid punches. But Dorian worried about his dropped candy. Zo kept attacking regardless. Kaio fell and was stepped on. Victory went to Zo. Oliva picked up the fallen candy. He put it in his mouth, then spat it out and gave it back to Dorian. The mixed essence revived him. Zo rejected winning against an impaired opponent. He demanded a fair rematch. Oliva agreed to replace Dorian. Officials approved the request. The crowd would witness Oliva's strength. Zo boasted about his iron-like body. He claimed it earned his Sea King title. He let Oliva attack first. Foolishly, Oliva didn't punch. He simply crushed him. Next came Jayaku versus Jin. Jayaku rushed forward and was knocked down. Jin struck again with an elbow. Jayaku realized he couldn't win. He offered recruitment with a 1 billion yen incentive. Jin hesitated, thinking of his low pay. Jayaku seized the chance to tempt him. Meanwhile, Retsu trained Chi for hours. He prepared for his next match. Retsu fought Sun. Sun bragged about finger strength. Hearing this, Retsu grabbed his hands. He defeated his opponent easily using only finger strength. A light touch afterward knocked the opponent out instantly. Kaku then ordered the fighters to regroup. He refused to let foreigners claim the emperor title. He stripped 3 useless sea kings of their martial status. Then he brought 2 masters into his team. One was his son, and the other was his son's friend. They decided to unite as one group. Retsu informed Baki's group of the change. As a Chinese fighter, he said tradition must be followed. The match would now be 5-on-5 as arranged by Kaku. Yuhiro found this amusing and accepted. He still resented Kaku for insulting him earlier. Yuhiro's team resolved to defeat them. Oliva prepared for his match. When he entered, the crowd grew excited, but seeing John made the atmosphere tense. Oliva approached and threw a punch. From John's calm attitude, Oliva sensed deep skill. A lightning strike from John injured Oliva. John's cool composure kept landing hits. His attacks came at blinding speed. Yet he maintained a composed demeanor. Oliva liked the style and tried to imitate it. But his hand awkwardly slipped into his underwear. John pulled it away and struck him for copying. He continued taunting his opponent. Oliva stayed silent, unsure what to say. He flexed his muscles. He prepared a devastating direct blow. John suddenly countered with lethal strikes that knocked him down. Spectators admired John's cool decisiveness. His movements were too fast to defend against. But Oliva's massive physique endured the damage. John attacked again in a furious barrage. The blows were too fast to count. Oliva exploited an opening with a critical strike. The fight grew serious. John continued targeting weak points. He kept kicking to control distance. Oliva began allowing attacks to land. He retaliated with a crushing headbutt. John tried to counter but failed. He noticed his fingers were shattered. Oliva seized the chance for another headbutt. John struggled to resist but couldn't. Victory went to Oliva. Kaku was disappointed by the loss. He planned to fight the remaining 4 matches alone. But his son insisted on taking the next bout. Seeing his determination, Kaku agreed. The next match was Shunsei vs Baki. The fight began immediately. Shunsei lunged at Baki like prey. Baki calmly counterpunched. The impact nearly rattled his brain. Baki followed with a powerful uppercut. Shunsei then took a kick and collapsed in under 2 seconds. Yaku prepared mentally to fight Retsu. They had known each other before. Kaku reminded Retsu he must win. Otherwise the team would be eliminated. Yaku used a dirty tactic by offering a handshake. He tried to ambush Retsu immediately. Retsu anticipated it and threw him away. The crowd protested the foul play. Yet Yaku approached for another handshake. His weak internal power couldn't overcome Retsu. Even so, Retsu avoided seriously hurting his acquaintance. Suddenly Yaku shamelessly tried again. He still came over to ask for a handshake with his opponent for the 3rd time. Retsu accepted the proposal for the 3rd time as well. But this time, things were different. Retsu took the initiative and used that moment to land a series of punches on Yaku. Yaku managed to turn the situation around by throwing his opponent off balance. He pulled off an armlock move that left Retsu astonished. The spectators were furious and rushed down when they saw Yaku fighting dirty. Luckily, Retsu stopped them, even though his arm had been crippled. It didn't affect him. Retsu still delivered some beautiful attacks. This made Yaku startled by his ability. Yaku still refused to give up his dirty tactics. He seized the chance to lock Retsu's leg. But with his masterful martial arts footwork, Retsu threw him down instead. The audience burst out laughing when he lost his composure. He stood up again and used another friendly handshake gesture with Retsu. Retsu went along with it and accepted his request. Something unexpected happened. Yaku suddenly reset Retsu's wrist joint. But Retsu responded with a series of impressive strikes. Retsu unleashed many consecutive punches on Yaku. Those finishing blows showed he was a true martial artist. Yaku tried to counterattack, but it didn't work. He was hit by a finishing strike from Retsu that nearly broke his spine. Although his endurance had limits, his dirty tricks were endless. Yaku slammed his head backward into his opponent. This made Retsu furious and charge in. He delivered countless rapid strikes. Yaku could only stand there and take them. After punching for a while, Retsu grew tired, so he switched to pressing acupoints on Yaku. That pressure made Yaku stand back up. Then Retsu threw a direct punch to Yaku's face. The match officially ended. The winner of the match was Retsu. After Han's warm-up performance of juggling apples with fiery kicks, he stepped in to fight Ally. The match began with Ally striking first. But Han wanted to show Ally more of his kicking techniques. The continuous damaging kicks made his opponent tremble. However, once they engaged in close combat, Ally had the advantage. He kept gaining the upper hand over Han, and Han fell. It seemed Han might get back up to continue fighting. But Ally sensed the fear and turned away. Han collapsed, and victory went to the boxer Ally. After the matches, Yuhiro's team had secured 3 wins. Kaku's team no longer had a chance of victory. The 3-1 score across 5 rounds left the spectators hopeless. At that moment, Yuhiro spoke, saying the titles of Sea King and Sea Emperor were meaningless honors. His words disappointed everyone in traditional martial arts. Emperor Kaku stepped forward to restore the crowd's morale. He made an entrance by tossing away his wheelchair, showing off his condition and spirit. Yuhiro responded calmly. Yuhiro invited him to sit and take a stroll. The two had a friendly conversation. Yuhiro wanted to know about his journey towards strength. Kaku said he had endured countless hardships in training. He once possessed unmatched muscular strength. Then he met a true martial arts master. That man defeated him before he could react. From that day on, Kaku realized muscles weren't the ultimate power. He trained day and night. He abandoned his heavy muscles over time to reach where he is today. Hearing this made Yuhiro irritated, so he crushed the wheelchair. A clash between 2 immense sources of power began. One side represented ultimate brutality, the other ultimate martial arts. Yuhiro attacked first, but Kaku used his Shaori technique to evade the strike. Even though he took blows strong enough to shatter a jaw, Kaku used softness to overcome hardness. No matter how powerful the attacks were, he smoothly slipped past them all. But Yuhiro figured out his opponent's pattern. Yuhiro plucked a strand of his hair. And at that moment, he threw a straight punch at Kaku's face. It knocked Kaku backward, rolling across the arena floor. After that, Kaku offered praise to Yuhiro. He asked Yuhiro what it would be like to take a punch from a frail old man. That punch carried enough force to make Yuhiro wary. It didn't stop there, as Kaku pressed Yuhiro into a corner. He unleashed punches that demonstrated their power against the wall. Yuhiro even took a few hits just to gauge the strength. Yuhiro concluded that Kaku was still too weak. Because Yuhiro himself had mastered the Shaori technique, Kaku's punches no longer affected him at all. Yuhiro only wanted to show off his level, so he promised he wouldn't use it against Kaku. Instead, he would rely on pure muscle strength to defeat him. Yuhiro rushed in and uppercut Kaku into the air. Heavy punches kept landing on Kaku's body. Kaku countered with a kick that forced Yuhiro back. But such weak strikes meant nothing to Yuhiro. After all, Yuhiro was known as a monster. Kaku was bouncing like a ball against the wall. The spectators realized he had lost the calm needed to use Shaori. Yuhiro's blows left him dizzy. Kaku went wild and retaliated with basic techniques. Seeing that, Yuhiro unleashed his power. Yuhiro immediately punched Kaku a few times for getting cocky. Kaku was furious since no one had dared strike him like that before. So he charged recklessly with relentless attacks. Those strikes looked less like martial arts and more like raw instinct. Yuhiro didn't even bother defending and let Kaku strike repeatedly. The fight ended when Yuhiro used a devastating technique on Kaku's head, followed by a super punch that tore through the air into Kaku's face. But Kaku froze in place, and the medical team rushed in. They concluded that Kaku had died of old age. This drove Yuhiro into rage since his opponent fell before he could finish. The doctors prepared to carry him away when Kaku suddenly sprang up. This shocked all the Chinese martial artists present. Kaku explained he had used his trump card. When prey knows it cannot defeat its opponent, it must protect its life by playing dead. That forces the opponent to stop and ends the hunt. But it also means the match has no winner. even after explaining himself hoarsely. No one believed he was alive. Although the tournament sought a successor to the Sea Emperor title, the result remained unclear, and so the tournament came to a close. Yujiro, still irritated, examined the punch marks on the arena floor. Kaku appeared and praised Yujiro. Though he couldn't pass his title to another, he enjoyed facing a worthy opponent. After the tournament, Baki felt winning and losing no longer mattered. He returned to living a normal life. He ran into the forest where he first learned martial arts. Suddenly Yujiro appeared and issued him a challenge. But Baki refused. He was no longer interested in fighting at the moment. Baki only made an exception for his monstrous father. Yujiro, hearing this, made Alai bitter. He swore to find a way to make Baki fight him. Alai called Baki's girlfriend out to a cafe. He told her he wanted to fight Baki. He gave seemingly reasonable reasons. First, Baki was someone she loved. Second, Alai wanted to become her boyfriend. And even more boldly, he wanted to marry her. She was shocked hearing that. Alai continued speaking sweetly to her. He vowed to love her for the rest of his life. Although she tried to refuse, the overwhelming words left her suffocated. Alai sealed the moment by kissing her cheek and leaving. That evening, Alai challenged Shibukawa. He hoped to learn new skills. Shibukawa attacked first. He completely toyed with Alai. But that was only Alai's warm-up. He punched the old man in the face. But out of respect he held back some of his strength. If he had struck seriously, it would have carried this much power. Shibukawa collapsed on the spot from that blow. Afterward, Alai went on to challenge Orochi. Seeing him reminded Orochi of Alai's father years ago. The two began a friendly match. Orochi was surprised that Alai's punches were just like his father's, though refined with his own personal style. Orochi charged forward but was struck again. His taunting words only sharpened Alai's focus. Orochi changed his strategy. He confidently allowed Alai to attack him. Then he began countering the blows. This made Alai uneasy at Orochi's intimidating presence. Orochi shifted tactics once more. Now the fight truly began. When Alai lunged in, Orochi neutralized the punch. He counterattacked. But Alai moved so fast he landed a strike precise to the millimeter. That blow reminded Orochi of Yujiro. And just like that, Orochi lay motionless. After the incident with Alai, Baki's girlfriend seemed charmed by him. She vaguely told Baki about it to test him. But Baki paid little attention since he trusted her completely. The next day they met in a park to talk. She suddenly asked if Baki loved her. Baki answered by kissing her to show his love. Alai appeared and interrupted the moment. He declared he would continue pursuing Baki's girlfriend. Only then did Baki recall her words from the day before. He realized she might have feelings for Alai. So he allowed Alai to pursue her if he wished. Because he respected her decision. Alai accepted and planned to date her soon. Baki's girlfriend was shocked by this. Afterward, Alai went to see Jack. He wanted a friendly match. Unfortunately, he had to wait until Jack finished eating. The two exchanged taunts. Jack didn't keep him waiting long. They went down to the sewer area to spar. Alai warmed up his limbs. Jack removed his shirt, ready to fight. Jack attacked first, but Alai countered the blow. Jack unleashed rapid strikes. Alai couldn't defend in time. With Jack's massive physique, no matter how Alai resisted, Jack held the advantage. Alai had challenged a heavyweight opponent. Jack stomped him for his arrogance. Just when Jack thought it was over, Alai stood again. Jack rained down punches like thunder. Then came Jack's finishing blow. A few days later, Alai had an official date with Baki's girlfriend. She was shocked by his injuries. She urged him to give up his goal. But then Shibukawa arrived and borrowed Alai for a moment. They went to an open forest clearing. Shibukawa wanted a rematch, and the sparring match began again. This time things were completely different. Shibukawa read all of Alai's moves. He struck him mercilessly. The fight felt unfair as Shibukawa vented his frustration. He brutalized Alai until he was battered. The next day Alai went on another date. She called him foolish for challenging Japanese masters. Before she finished speaking, Orochi came to check on him. He led Alai to an open field to resume their unfinished fight. Despite his injuries, Alai accepted the challenge. Orochi was still upset about losing the other day, so he used today as a chance for revenge. The match began, and Alai's attacks no longer had any effect. He started to feel afraid. Although Alai tried hard to resist, Orochi's confident presence made him cry out. Orochi continuously held the upper hand. His heavy blows terrified his opponent. After toying with him for a while, Orochi stopped and left. The next day Alai went on another date in miserable condition. He still spoke many sweet words. But seeing him like that, Baki's girlfriend rejected him. Those words left him deeply saddened. Suddenly his father appeared. He challenged his son despite his condition. Years ago he had lost to Alai. After training hard to surpass himself, he wanted a friendly match today. Alai felt he couldn't refuse and accepted. Even badly injured, he charged forward. His father knocked him back with one hand. He even showed off his six-pack muscles. He continued attacking without mercy. Despite being father and son, the fight was intense. Eventually Alai collapsed. His father carried him to bed to rest. They talked together. Alai admitted he had learned much in Japan. He vowed never to give up his dream. Suddenly an old man proposed a match between him and Baki. Though seriously injured, Alai agreed immediately. Baki also accepted, because he was angry about Alai pursuing his girlfriend. Alai trained to prepare. Even while badly hurt, his father encouraged him to push beyond his limits, so he could recover and be ready. The day of the fight arrived. Alai left the hotel ready for the arena. The driver praised his courage. It was a no-rules, no-referee match. Aside from Baki's father Yujiro, Baki was considered the second strongest. The arena manager led Alai to his room. Suddenly he felt psychological pressure and fear. He trained to calm himself, then stepped out bravely. Yujiro suddenly dropped down to intimidate him. Baki told him not to interfere. He told him to go watch from above. Yujiro smashed a drum to hype the atmosphere. The fight began as Baki approached and dodged an attack. With one elbow strike, Baki knocked Alai unconscious. Baki stayed focused. Though Alai recovered mentally, he couldn't dodge Baki's blows. Baki grabbed and choked him tightly, punishing him for touching his girlfriend. Alai endured without resistance. His father arrived just in time to save him. Baki apologized for losing control, but blamed him for going after his girlfriend. He couldn't forgive that. Unable to fight Alai further, Baki challenged his father. Yujiro was delighted. The once weak boy now challenged him. Yujiro was ready to give him a legendary fight, but suddenly he lost interest and walked away. Seeing Baki's dominance, his girlfriend approached him. She wanted to reconcile, but things weren't so simple with Baki. He drove her away without saying another word. While walking down the street, she saw Yujiro crying miserably. Sharing similar feelings, they embraced and cried together. And what will happen to the two of them in the end? Onichan hopes you'll comment below so we can discuss it. An emergency press conference was held with Saman speaking. He was the only survivor to return from the battle. He led troops to destroy a giant mammoth elephant, but unfortunately his army was too weak to defeat it. When Saman was in danger, someone suddenly came to help. That person alone defeated the mammoth with bare hands. The media didn't believe his story. Saman angrily left in silence. Elsewhere, some foolish kids dared each other to find the strongest fighter. One boy carrying a fruit knife boldly approached some thugs. They laughed at his foolishness. They told him to meet the strongest at the riverbank. As promised, the boy met Baki. His face went pale at the sight of him. Baki didn't say much. He stripped off his clothes. The boy trembled, unable to speak. He thought this would be his last day alive. Baki lightly smacked him with his arm. Judging by his reaction, it hurt badly. Luckily the water nearby was shallow. From enemies, they became friends. Captain Stridham met Baki. He reported that Baki's father killed the giant mammoth, meaning he accepted Baki's challenge. Baki returned home with the boy. Chatting about training, he demonstrated martial arts techniques. He introduced basic shadowboxing, imagining an opponent in front of him. His punches cut the air like real strikes. His battle with empty air was intense. Suddenly his imagination created Champion Michael. Baki took hits from this imagined heavyweight opponent. The kids couldn't understand what he was doing. They just saw him waving around alone. They were shocked when his acting reached such realism, that he even got a nosebleed. His eyes were intensely focused. He delivered a decisive strike, making Champion Michael vanish. Then Baki took the boy home. The walls were covered with insults toward him. But Baki trains anywhere. He brought the boy into his training room. Today he would train with a praying mantis. He had caught it earlier. Baki respected it as the king of insects. Tigers carry prey 4 times their weight. Insects can carry 8 times their weight home. Small insects possess immense strength. The mantis is a veteran warrior. If it weighed 100 kilos, it could hunt mammoths. Don't underestimate its size. After explaining, Baki imagined a giant mantis attacking him. His imagination was vivid enough to treat it as real. When he attacked, it locked him down. He struck its face with his knee. Though imaginary, it was fast. They exchanged blows evenly. The giant mantis battered him. Seeing a weakness, he attempted a choke, but it wasn't easy. It grabbed him, trying to devour him. Luckily Baki escaped. He struck its weak point. Despite its hard shell, he continued attacking and locked its neck. The mantis struggled and threw him into a table, even with his extraordinary imagination. The bleeding was real for Baki. He realized this mantis was difficult to defeat. When it lunged, Baki punched its throat. That was the mantis's weak point. Baki switched his stance to praying mantis kung fu. Long ago, the founder of martial arts discovered this style. A monk once watched a sparrow fight a mantis. It seemed the bird would eat it, but surprisingly the mantis won. From then on, the monk adopted the mantis's techniques. That is how praying mantis kung fu was born. Now Baki used it against his opponent. But things were not easy. The mantis countered his lethal attack. He struck its weak points until it trembled and vanished. He caught the tiny real mantis and put it in a box as a pet. Captain Stridum visited a top-class hotel to find Yuhiro. There, Yuhiro swam at 120 km per hour. He swam non-stop with killer fish techniques. Then he leapt like a whale from the water. The two had a friendly talk. Stridum informed Yuhiro about his son. Baki had trained successfully by defeating a giant mantis. Yuhiro laughed madly. He couldn't believe Baki fought an imaginary mantis. No matter how strong imagination is, it cannot compare to a real giant mammoth. During a parade, the president appeared before the public. Suddenly he went missing. Baki had kidnapped him into a nearby restaurant. They negotiated, having committed a serious crime. Baki requested transfer to Arizona State Prison. He wanted to meet the most notorious inmate, Oliva. The president reluctantly agreed. Special forces arrested Baki. They followed procedures step by step. The court sentenced him and issued his inmate number. Everything happened quickly, and he arrived at Arizona prison. He followed the same rules as other inmates. The warden was shocked by his muscle stats. He explained that powerful criminals filled the place. Because Baki wanted to meet Oliva, the warden sent someone to guide him. After passing many security doors, he was amazed upon entering Oliva's residence. Oliva welcomed him warmly. He offered tea. They talked. Baki wanted to challenge him for experience. He was preparing to face his father, the strongest man alive. Oliva lectured him about proper progression. He couldn't just jump to fight the strongest prisoner. Not wanting to miss the chance, Baki suddenly punched him. Surprisingly, Oliva didn't retaliate. He told Baki to return to his cell and fight the second strongest inmate instead. Baki was moved to his cell. At first he thought he was alone, but it was full of dangerous figures. Even champion Michael from his imagination was there. Michael warned he wasn't even top 10. An old man told everyone to be quiet and sleep. Next morning Baki thought a tall man was second strongest. He prepared to fight. Suddenly someone emerged from a barrel. That man was the second strongest inmate. Baki immediately challenged him. The others worried about Baki. At the most intense moment, they had to gather outside for a guard inspection. But unexpectedly only the top 2 inmate was allowed to move around freely. Not only that, he was even permitted to smoke. And the guard acted as if nothing had happened. Afterward all the prisoners moved to the dining hall. Guevaru noticed a guard replacing his gun. So he asked to take a look and flicked the mole off the man's forehead, leaving the guard standing frozen, not daring to react. Today a large man sat across from Guevaru. He spoke provocatively, challenging Guevaru. He even demonstrated his spoon-bending technique. Guevaru responded by playfully twisting the spoon with flexibility for him to see. This made the fat man furious and he flipped the dining table. He also wanted to fight the top 2 of this block, hoping to trade the incident for some freedom. Of course Guevaru agreed to grant his wish. Guevaru even handed him a gun and told him to pull the trigger. But just as he tried to fire, Guevaru kicked him in a vital spot. The fat man angrily accused Guevaru of fighting dirty. Afterward, Guevaru borrowed the gym room, so the two could have a sumo-style martial arts match. Other guards came in as well to watch out of curiosity. Guevaru acted foolish and hugged the fat man to begin the match. The fat man thought it would be easy. He tried lifting Guevaru up, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't raise him at all. Guevaru thought the man was exhausted, so he slapped his ear, then used a few strands of hair to rupture his eardrum. The match ended when the fat man could no longer fight. Guevaru quietly left and handed him over to the guards. A guard greeted the fat man again, then sent him off to meet his ancestors. Baki later met Guevaru, and learned he came to prison to challenge Oliva. But Baki provoked and insulted him with words. A guard rushed in and struck Baki with a baton. Baki playfully twirled the baton for them to see, and was locked in a cell with his fingers restrained. An old man sharing the cell thought he was foolish and brought him food. He also told Baki more about Guevaru. Guevaru was the boss of a large gang on a remote South American island. He once achieved many remarkable feats, stealing wealth from the rich to give to the poor. But over time the locals learned business from tourism. The gap in development and knowledge turned them into slaves to money. So Guevaru resolved once again to reclaim independence for the island, by teaching martial arts to its people, putting them through harsh training to resist modern weapons. After some time, Guevaru became the island's president, and formed his own secret special forces unit. Meanwhile, the US president wanted to wipe the island out, believing it harbored undesirable elements. So he made plans to eliminate it. Suddenly a spy threatened the president, warning that if he touched the island, he would be sent there to taste just how salty the sea was. To add drama, the spy showed a video of the president's family. Thus, Guevaru did unimaginable things to secure independence for his nation. Guevaru entered this prison only to defeat Oliva, and assert his country's standing. At that moment the warden stepped in. He warned the old man for breaking prison rules, saying punishment would depend on his attitude. Baki flipped the man's hat away, and verbally insulted him. This excited the warden, since no one had dared disrespect him before, giving him a reason to discipline Baki, to teach him manners. Just as he tried to attack, Baki kicked him straight in the face, sending him flying out the door. Baki then attempted to unlock his restrained fingers, but the man suddenly struck him several times. Baki's knee strike went too far and knocked him backward. Luckily, Baki quickly caught up. The difficulty was that with 2 fingers restrained, it was hard to balance his body. Yet Baki used all his strength to throw the warden successfully. That moment, to thank Baki for his kindness, the warden decided to let everything slide. The next day, Baki was assigned to hard labor outdoors. The job was to drive foundation stakes into the ground. But with his beast-like strength, Baki finished 1 stake in just 2 hammer swings. Meanwhile, the champion Michael needed 3 or 4 swings to finish 1. During their break, the two had a heartfelt conversation. Michael was about to be released and planned to enter an upcoming heavyweight match. However, the chairman of the World Boxing Council had deposited $2 million into Arizona prison. He demanded that Michael never return to the ring, so they bribed the Arizona prison to find a way to eliminate him. To get rid of Michael, they had no choice but to call in the assassin trio. Their professional style had earned them quite a reputation, but up close, they didn't seem all that trustworthy. Their motto was, lips, teeth, and tongue. This symbolized the cooperation of all 3 parts when eating something. When food enters the mouth, they eat skillfully without touching their lips, teeth, or tongue. This reflected the refined teamwork between the 3 of them. Deputy Warden Samuel led them to meet Michael. He still doubted their ability against such a formidable opponent. The trio calculated the odds of taking Michael down. They claimed it would only take 2 or 3 moves, even though Michael was 2 or 3 times stronger than an average person. They positioned themselves in a triangle formation around him. With coordinated teamwork, they launched the first attack. They struck him repeatedly. Suddenly, one of them attacked and then ran away. This caused Michael to chase him. Michael didn't realize he had fallen into their trap. The trio continued attacking in coordination. After taking constant hits, Michael panicked and retreated into a corner. He thought hiding there would let him counter with straight punches. But unexpectedly, They underestimated him. The three showed a bit of respect and agreed to box him fairly. They fought using boxing punches. Their synchronized punches rained down on him. No matter how extraordinary Michael was, he couldn't dodge 3 punches at once. So he collapsed before the trio. Next came their finishing move. They pinned him down and stomped his face repeatedly until he lost consciousness. No matter how strong someone is, they can't outmatch a coordinated group of 3. They decided to end his boxing career by cutting several tendons in Michael's hands. But just then, Guevara arrived in time and knocked them away. Besides his strength, he also enjoyed acting ridiculously. The trio returned to their battle positions. One of them charged in with a punch, only for Guevara to urinate on him. This disgusted the other 2 because of his outrageous behavior. Guevara then lay down as if taking a break. The trio rushed in and kicked him repeatedly for showing off. Yet his crazy antics didn't stop. He smeared dirt on his face and recalled glorious memories. The trio changed their tactical positions. 2 rushed in to punch him, but 1 got knocked out by Guevara. The other 2 were terrified. They were so scared they nearly wet themselves from Guevara's danger level. Thus, the outcome of Guevara's fight was decided. Michael woke up and thanked Guevara for helping him. Guevara replied that it was nothing since they were cellmates. Back in the cell, Baki kept looking forward to fighting Guevara. This time, his challenge was accepted, surprising him. Before anything could happen, Oliva came to visit. Guevara and Oliva exchanged greetings and talked first. Though they had different interests, they shared a common goal of boxing to become the strongest. Guevara fights because he wants to help others. Meanwhile, Oliva fights to show off to his beloved girlfriend. Hearing this made Baki furious. Because all this time, he realized he had idolized the wrong people. Enraged, Baki told the 2 of them to cut out their showboating. Immediately, both of them slapped him across the face and sent him flying. They couldn't believe a kid dared to interrupt adult matters. Oliva continued bragging about his lover's handkerchief. Smelling it excited him immensely. Seeing that, Guevara spat on it. He wanted to teach him a lesson for bragging about meaningless things. Oliva quickly grabbed his beloved handkerchief and ran outside shouting. The next day, as usual, Oliva dressed sharply for his girlfriend. That neat appearance showed how much he loved her. But when they met, she complained about his style in many ways. Even so, Oliva still managed to win her over in his own way. Meanwhile, Guevara waited, ready to fight Oliva. He held a jar that contained the spiritual strength of his island. It filled him with powerful motivation and resolve. The time arrived, and the match began. All the prisoners gathered to witness this legendary fight. Everyone was excited in anticipation. Guevara stepped out holding his jar of strength. Oliva showed off even more by carrying in a bed with his girlfriend on it. Everyone eagerly waited to see her face. But upon seeing her, they were disappointed by her looks. They had expected extraordinary beauty. No one imagined she would be twice Oliva's size. He explained that everyone admired her greatly. Judging by their expressions, no one knew what there was to admire. Not wanting to lose face before his girlfriend, Oliva displayed his body transformation. Shocking everyone, Guevara opened his jar to draw inspiration. The crashing winds and ocean waves surged within him. Guevara proposed a gentleman's style of combat. Both opponents would grip opposite ends of a handkerchief. Then punch each other until one let go. That person loses. Both sides agreed to the rules. They grabbed hold of the cloth. Guevara launched the first attack. Despite taking several direct punches, Oliva didn't let go. Guevara realized punches alone wouldn't defeat him, so he planned to knock him unconscious and make him loosen his grip. Suddenly, Oliva pretended to fall backward and pulled the cloth. Guevara had to grab it with both hands. He was moments away from losing. Oliva mocked him for being weak. He even held the cloth with just 2 pinky fingers to humiliate him. This angered Guevara, prompting him to fight dirty. He twisted a few beard hairs and flicked them into Oliva's eyes. Then he rushed forward and hurled Oliva into the air. Yet Oliva was unharmed. Guevara attacked again while he was distracted. He made Oliva stagger, but Oliva still didn't release the cloth. Oliva taunted him politely. Guevara kept gripping tightly, while Oliva held it loosely without effort. The more Oliva talked, the more Guevara attacked. Oliva ended it by gently grabbing his head and slamming him down. As the battle intensified, Baki suddenly hugged Oliva's girlfriend and fell asleep. This enraged Oliva so much he let go of the cloth. His girlfriend then criticized him as well. Guevara seized the chance to deliver powerful kicks. He struck Oliva's eardrum again with a trick attack. Twisting some hairs, he tried to cut Oliva's eardrum. But things weren't easy against the prison's top fighter. Oliva slapped him so hard he flew hundreds of meters into a wall. As everyone cheered Oliva's victory, Guevara rose again, looking far more insane. He smeared dirt on his face with tribal markings, then charged while chanting wildly. But once Oliva got serious, those attacks lost their effect. Guevara collapsed after taking a devastating blow. Yet it didn't end, he stood back up. Oliva flexed his muscles, powering up further, ready for a final round. Guevara wasn't backing down either. Entering an infinite state, he warned Oliva after blowing away his outer layer of clothing. This time, Guevara would use his earth anchor technique. He intended to throw Oliva skyward as gently as possible, then finish with a punch as solid as the earth's core. Just when it seemed the match would end quickly, Oliva grabbed him and slammed him into the ground. With strength measured in thousands of tons, an ordinary person would have died instantly. Oliva praised Guevara for being strong, but said he was still too young to understand love for muscles. He bragged about the size of his muscles to Baki. If he didn't restrain them, he claimed they would explode and send him to heaven. Baki told him to stop bragging. Baki brought up his father, known as the King of Monsters. So Oliva decided to teach Baki a lesson for not knowing how to respect adults in conversation. Fortunately, Baki had enough skill to withstand it. After beating Baki, Oliva took his lover inside to satisfy himself. Everything settled down when guards checked the cell and found Guevara gone. He had left behind a letter and money from his island for Oliva, hoping he would visit someday. Back home, Guevara returned to his role as leader. They happily rebuilt the island together. After the escape, Baki returned to his usual prison life. This time he wanted to prove he could become number one here, by overcoming challenges inside the prison to build his reputation. Unfortunately, the warden intercepted him first. Baki was surrounded. The warden tried to advise him, but stubborn as he was, Baki wouldn't listen. Instead, he threatened the warden by pointing out his vital weak points. Tension rose when the warden refused to back down. Baki casually put an arm over his shoulder, then walked confidently toward the gate. In doing so, he achieved his goal of escaping. Afterward, he held out his hands for the guards to cuff him again. Surprisingly, Oliva still enjoyed more freedom than him. Oliva was furious that Baki tried to tarnish his title, so he decided to discipline Baki under the blazing sun. But Baki kept provoking him non-stop. Oliva grew angry but chose to let it go, knowing how stubborn Baki was. Since the provocation failed, Baki returned to his cell. Feeling humiliated, Oliva threw a card to vent his anger. Then he visited Baki's solitary confinement cell. He talked about the gap between their levels. Oliva told Baki to give up the illusion of fighting him. He believed Baki had no chance of winning. To prove it, he urinated on Baki's head. This was meant to show the clear difference in rank. But Baki vowed to make Oliva kneel and apologize. Those words unsettled Oliva. Even while enjoying fine food and wine, he couldn't taste anything properly. The warden later spoke with Oliva about Baki walking out the front gate. It caused prisoners to stop obeying rules. He asked Oliva to discipline Baki. Oliva agreed to the match. He planned to invite the president and TV stations to watch live, aiming to sell broadcast rights and profit for Arizona prison. Oliva visited Baki to announce the challenge would happen in 2 weeks. But Baki refused to wait. He wanted to fight immediately. He was confident he could defeat Oliva. As he charged, Oliva slapped him through a wall. Oliva accepted and began the fight on the spot. Baki used joint manipulation techniques. Extending his hands forward, he stopped blood flow to his fingers to slip free from restraints. Now the fight was fair. Baki struck first but was caught by Oliva. Oliva pulled him with full force into a wall. And didn't stop there. He grabbed him and swung him around effortlessly. At this moment, Baki was like a toy in Oliva's hands. Then Oliva unleashed a finishing headbutt that crashed through dozens of rooms. With that massive build, he overwhelmed Baki until he could barely breathe. Baki took a devastating punch and was sent flying outside. Even though he tried to counterattack, it only managed to tickle Oliva. Oliva hurled Baki straight down to the ground. Baki could only lie there gasping for air. He reflected on the gap in strength between them. The feeling reminded him of fighting his father long ago. It excited him so much he felt like melting and filling the space around him. In an instant, that sensation made him spring back up. Oliva complained that he had stayed down too long, wasting the time he had spent waiting. He flexed his muscles even harder to prepare. But suddenly, Oliva stumbled and collapsed. Prison cameras captured the moment. Baki had struck at a speed too fast for the eye to follow, knocking Oliva unconscious for 5 seconds. Oliva was thrilled, saying Baki resembled his father. Oliva suddenly curled his body inward. But could Baki break through this perfect defense? Baki tried a few kicks to test it, only to have the force rebound back at him. He threw a direct punch next. But Oliva's muscles were as hard as steel. Oliva grabbed his arm and swallowed Baki like a predator. This move involved embracing the opponent and crushing them tightly. It looked like a python devouring its prey. Only when the victim ran out of strength would he release them. Oliva told Baki to quit and apologize. Baki was too arrogant to realize prison had no rules, where fighters could use dirty tactics freely. Baki replied that the match was life or surrender, nothing else. Oliva rushed forward and stomped him for his insolence. He even used a monstrous biting attack. But Baki had already figured out how to counter it. Oliva slapped him for his non-stop mouth. He insisted Baki would pay for it. Baki told him to stop using cheap tricks and box like real fighters. At that moment, champion Michael urged him to stop, reminding him Oliva was an undefeated heavyweight boxer. Fighting him would be suicide. But that only excited Baki more. The two charged and exchanged punches at lightning speed. Heavy blows smashed into both their faces. It was truly an evenly matched fight. Even the vultures seemed to pause to watch. Baki's goal was to defeat Oliva at all costs. He used strength and technique head-on. He forced Oliva back toward a wall. Oliva couldn't believe such a small kid could push him backward. They continued trading lethal blows. Baki landed a finishing punch that blasted Oliva through a wall. Victory felt like seeing the sunlight. Baki was overjoyed. When he returned inside, he saw Oliva lying motionless. He feared he had killed him. But Oliva survived and saw his beloved girlfriend. Afraid he might die, she made him carry her upstairs. Oliva then gathered everyone to make an announcement. He admitted he lost to Baki, meaning he was no longer number 1 in the prison. However, he refused to accept it, and ordered the warden to expel Baki. Thus Oliva retained his number 1 position. Meanwhile, Yujiro and Captain Stridum heard of Baki's victory. And so the father-son clash was drawing near. The next day, Captain Stridum arrived at Baki's small home. He told Baki that someone was threatening Yuhiro's title. An American newspaper had widely reported the discovery of a new being. A mysterious prehistoric human found in a salt mine. With a muscular physique, he resembled a wild beast hunter. The mining crew quickly transported him to a research facility. Scientists were extremely concerned, seeing this as a turning point in human history. Because the man lying there originated from the Jurassic era. His intact body after millions of years was thanks to salt rock samples that preserved objects perfectly, allowing frozen organisms to potentially revive. So he might awaken at any moment. Professor Payne assigned Alien to guard the specimen. As the prehistoric human became part of his revival project, electric pulses were attached to the body while it was immersed in a special solution to promote cellular regeneration. Alien took the job lightly, showing no respect for the specimen, casually eating while reading a sexy magazine. Suddenly he realized something he had overlooked. The prehistoric dinosaur had been thawed successfully, meaning he could taste its meat first. He quickly took a piece to eat. Its fragrance spread throughout the room. The scent filled the entire lab. He enjoyed it thoroughly, admitting it tasted great at first bite. But after chewing repeatedly, he found nothing especially remarkable. Meanwhile, he didn't realize the prehistoric human had awakened. The being was confused by his surroundings, since everything differed from the Jurassic era. Yet nothing caught his interest. Because the smell of dinosaur meat dominated his senses, he soon encountered Alien, terrifying him completely. The creature was 3 times his size. Alien instinctively drew a knife. But the being only took the meat to eat. Such a small portion barely filled his teeth gaps. So he sniffed around searching for the dinosaur. Alien refused to let it go, threatening him with a gun. The creature sensed danger and warned him. But Alien fired in panic. The bullets did nothing against his steel-like skin, angering him enough to toss them back. Alien trembled and wet himself. The prehistoric human attacked again, forcing Alien to fire his remaining rounds. Naturally, nothing stopped him. He grabbed Alien and shook him like a toy, roaring angrily for the dinosaur's location. Alien couldn't understand his signals, so the creature hurled him into a wall. Dazed, Alien staggered mindlessly, leading him to the dinosaur chamber and sealing the door. He immediately called the police for backup. Everyone knew the prehistoric human was dangerous. Professor Payne believed police forces were insufficient, and ordered the captain to summon the military. He understood the creature's terrifying power. The professor named him Pickle. No sooner had he spoken than Pickle smashed through the wall. He rampaged violently against the police. In under a minute, they were all defeated. The military quickly deployed forces. They brought newly invented weapons never tested before. Seeing this as an opportunity to try advanced technology, Pickle found the robot strange. Without understanding, both attacked each other. Though Pickle was grabbed by the neck, he punched and shattered its armor. The operator panicked and used a drill attack, but Pickle caught and hurled it away. He continued rampaging through the army. Captain Stridham was quickly dispatched to the battlefield. He brought along advanced modern weapons and professional troops, but he did not use them. Instead, he quietly rode alone to meet Pickle. Looking into his eyes made Pickle feel trust. The two talked and accepted each other as friends. Afterward, Pickle was transported to Japan. The surrounding military units quickly escorted him back to the base. With his sharp eyes, Pickle began observing everything around him. A beautiful female reporter appeared and interviewed him, greatly surprising Pickle, because for millions of years Pickle had never known what a female was. His wild instincts caused him to act without self-control. Although the soldiers quickly tried to stop something terrible from happening, his overwhelming strength caused the reporter to die, because she could not endure Pickle's desire. Professor Payne quickly gave an explanation to the media, stating that Pickle was an ancient human from the Jurassic era who had been frozen in rock salt for millions of years. So when he revived in this world, primal desire was unavoidable, and the incident with the reporter was extremely unfortunate. But he hoped the public would be understanding and forgive it, because Pickle had not yet adapted to human evolution, and this led to a wave of public controversy. People were furious and demanded punishment for this ancient creature. Yujiro arrived at the US military base, because he was very interested in the ancient being, but the guards stopped him. So Yujiro used his killing aura to threaten them. And at that moment the guards began fighting each other mercilessly, leaving everyone confused about what had happened, as if some mysterious force had affected them. Just like that, Yujiro broke through the gate and entered. Meanwhile, Retsu also sneaked inside. He felt embarrassed that a renowned martial artist had to resort to stealth like this. Retsu successfully subdued a guard and moved fluidly like a shadow. Even when encountering other guards, his movements blended perfectly. Unfortunately, a spotlight suddenly shone directly on him, forcing him to knock out the guard and take another route toward the prehistoric captive. But upon arriving, he discovered someone had beaten him to it, and that person was Shinogi. Both realized they shared the same goal of finding Pickle. Shinogi claimed he arrived first and should fight first. Unexpectedly, Dopo also appeared disguised as a dinosaur. Then one by one the top masters began appearing inside the holding room, each hiding in their own unique way. It almost seemed like they owned the place. They were surprised to learn everyone had sneaked in with the same goal, causing unhealthy rivalry. So they decided to approach Pickle. Although they had been stomping around and talking loudly, Pickle slept soundly. Jack had to wake the monster up, angered that he dared sleep while masters had come to see him. Pickle stepped out with an enormous body, shocking everyone present. Having just woken from a long sleep, Pickle immediately relieved himself in front of the masters. But that was nothing when he sensed an extremely powerful killing aura. Of course it came from Yujiro. Katsumi spoke up in front of Yujiro, and Yujiro lectured him about the philosophy of strength, saying he was just showing off to gain recognition. which struck Katsumi right at his core. Katsumi angrily attacked Yujiro to regain his pride, but it proved weak and ineffective. If he couldn't even tie his bindings properly, how could he fight Yujiro? Yujiro threw the rope into Katsumi's face, telling him to go home and learn to tie his shoes tight before returning. Then Yujiro approached Pickle to greet him, but to make the meeting more impressive, he smashed through the reinforced glass with his face to enter, leaving the masters watching two planetary monsters interact. Although Pickle couldn't understand anything Yujiro said, Pickle could only sense that the human before him possessed strength like a Tyrannosaurus. The two exchanged a shocking friendly fist clash, as two savage monsters embodied by two sources of power faced each other. At that moment, the US military surrounded the entire holding room, ordering Yujiro to step outside. Commander Henry hurried over hoping he would stop this visit. Henry was under pressure from his superiors, so he asked Yujiro to leave, but in truth Henry was pleading with him, knowing they had no way to stop him. He hoped Yujiro would let it go so they wouldn't be put in a difficult position. Yujiro didn't want to trouble them either, so he requested that everyone else inside be arrested, and all the masters were escorted out together, shocked that Yujiro tipped off the military and got them all captured. Afterward, Pickle was transported to Tokugawa's arena. Pickle had not eaten or drunk anything for days, because modern food did not interest him. Pickle had one rule: he only ate the flesh of his opponents, because that created pride within a hunter's heart. Modern wild beasts fled the moment they saw Pickle, leaving the old men deeply worried. There was only one way left to stimulate Pickle's appetite. Professor Payne proposed testing a Siberian tiger against him, since it was an animal listed at a high endangered level. A fearless big cat that feared nothing. Arguably the strongest animal alive today. When Pickle saw it, he became extremely excited. He rushed forward and hugged it tightly, killing it instantly before it could react. And thus Pickle enjoyed fresh Siberian tiger meat as his prize. The incident was reported across the media. When Professor Payne used an endangered species to feed Pickle, public outrage erupted once again, believing the old professor had gone insane over a prehistoric human. Retsu learned of the news and quickly sought out Tokugawa. He offered himself to Pickle for a historic battle. With absolute confidence he believed he would win. And of course he would not be easily eaten. This would be a life-risking challenge. Although Professor Payne tried to stop them, Captain Stridham and Tokugawa were thrilled, ready to witness a battle between a kung fu master and a prehistoric monster. When Retsu stepped toward the arena, Pickle immediately stood up, thinking prey had delivered itself. Though he didn't understand Retsu's words, Pickle reacted to them nonetheless. Everyone guessed he was hungry. He slapped Retsu, flying straight into the arena wall. Retsu then became serious, unleashing painful strikes directly at Pickle's face, making him cry out as today's prey proved tough to consume. Retsu seized the moment and continued striking his body, attacks pouring out relentlessly. Retsu believed no one could take such blows without their brain shaking. But he was completely wrong. Pickle delivered a devastating strike that knocked Retsu unconscious. Then tears fell from Pickle's eyes, because he had gained a powerful meal. Everyone watching was shocked to see him eating his opponent. Retsu suddenly sprang back up and attacked to free himself. He viewed being eaten as disgraceful, something he could never forgive. He charged forward again, only to be countered and slammed to the ground. Heavily affected by the blow, Retsu used his windmill technique to attack, strikes that seemed childish at first glance, surprising everyone that a kung fu master used them seriously. This also astonished Pickle before his opponent. Even more surprisingly, Retsu's untapped instincts began to awaken, and he fully exploited them to counterattack his opponent. The image he pursued appeared before him, granting Retsu a special martial arts power. It could be called the infinite instinct of martial strength. Retsu began using this instinct to fight Pickle. His attacks became extremely effective, forcing his opponent to cry out. With natural reflexes that required no thought, Retsu brought his opponent down before him. But it was meaningless when Pickle rose again in a hunting stance, making Retsu anxious since he had never seen such movement. Both sides prepared for a one-on-one clash. Pickle launched a fierce assault first, just as Retsu unleashed his ultimate technique. But Pickle's attack was too powerful. Retsu took the full blow and flew into the wall. Pickle shed tears again, then approached Retsu, seeing him as the perfect meal earned in victory. Although Tokugawa rushed in to stop it, he was knocked unconscious for interfering. Prey delivered to him could not be refused. So Pickle devoured one of Retsu's legs. As the defeated being eaten was the philosophy of ancient times. Professor Payne injected Pickle with a sedative, knocking him out instantly. This was to save Retsu's life. The next day Retsu awoke feeling deep shame, because he had not kept his promise to his opponent, and his injuries left him unable to recover. Dopo quickly received news of Retsu's defeat, and called his son to plan their next move. Because Pickle's matches were not simple martial exchanges, but battles of predators, where Pickle would eat his opponents if he won. Meanwhile, Professor Payne and Tokugawa worried after Pickle broke free and escaped. Pickle was now high above the city, sitting and watching the night lights. A large man searched for a place to relieve himself, choosing a secluded spot, but suddenly an arm grabbed and dragged him inside. Despite resistance, he failed to escape. Pickle had learned to take others' belongings to blend into human society. With his large build, he drew curiosity from passers-by. Looking just like a true street tough. Stepping onto the road, he was hit by a vehicle. Pickle quickly rose and stared at the truck, imagining it as a rhinoceros challenging him. He confronted the truck in a crazed manner, astonishing everyone that he was more monster than human. Suddenly the truck's front detached and pinned him down. Pickle got back up and attacked the cargo container. Luck struck again, as it was filled with fresh meat. Naturally, a meal he could not refuse. Meanwhile, Katsumi trained tirelessly to improve. Still bitter over Yuhiro's insults, he needed to prove his ability. Learning Pickle had escaped the arena, he seized the chance to show his strength, gathering everyone at the dojo to search for Pickle, with the sole reason of avenging Retsu. Elsewhere, Pickle was invited into a love hotel by an attendant. Inside, many attractive women were welcoming him. But before entering, he was stopped by one of Katsumi's men. The attendant was uncooperative, so they surrounded the scene, frightening the attendant and confronting Pickle. Just then Hanayama arrived. No one knew who had come into their territory looking to start trouble. Hanayama's men issued threats toward Katsumi's group. Both sides immediately failed to reach any agreement, and the knife kicked away was caught by Pickle and Hanayama. This made everyone marvel at how incredibly cool it was. Pickle struck first, attacking Hanayama. Hanayama's subordinate rushed in to attack, but Pickle crushed his arm and broke it. Pickle then walked away despite Katsumi's members trying to stop him. Finding it annoying, Pickle slapped one of them aside, leaving Katsumi's men unconscious on the ground. Hanayama then confronted Pickle, managing to block the opponent's powerful charge, which greatly surprised Pickle, as he imagined this man to be a giant rhinoceros. Hanayama pushed back with force, and Pickle did not know this man was known as the King of Endurance. It seemed the two would fight one-on-one, but unexpectedly the turn shifted to Baki. Pickle could not understand what Baki was saying. The two exchanged fist bumps that spun Baki around 360 degrees in shock. Baki realized Pickle possessed strength comparable to his father's. Pickle found Baki interesting and grew friendly toward him, then even wanted Baki to follow him. Tokugawa panicked when Pickle intended to fight and eat Baki, because if Baki lost an arm or leg, Yuhiro would not let it go. Tokugawa feared he would be torn into pieces, but Baki refused to listen and insisted on fighting Pickle. Before anything happened, Pickle kicked him into a bench. Pickle excitedly performed a wild dance to provoke his opponent. Baki was knocked unconscious from that blow. Tokugawa rushed to move him away before Pickle might eat him. Meanwhile, Katsumi trained day and night. Now supported by Dopo, Retsu came after hearing Katsumi's group sought revenge for him. Retsu saw through Katsumi's intentions, knowing he used revenge as justification for his own goals. Retsu stated karate alone was insufficient to defeat Pickle, so he decided to pass his kung fu techniques to Katsumi. At first, Katsumi refused to honor his father's karate tradition, but eventually accepted and learned Retsu's martial arts. Retsu agreed to teach him all techniques and secrets freely, and the two began exchanging training. This would create a major surprise, as Katsumi would wield both kung fu and karate. Meanwhile, Professor Payne poured sedatives into the arena to put Pickle to sleep. Unsure whether he could keep Pickle confined, Tokugawa believed Pickle would stay, because he saw it as his new territory. where prey would come to him. Indeed, the sedatives had no effect. Pickle remained fully alert. Tokugawa told him to sleep anyway, promising to bring him fresh prey soon. Elsewhere, Retsu and Katsumi analyzed speed and velocity, seeking objects fast enough to double their damage, and derived martial techniques from that study. To reach supersonic speed they needed stronger joints and bones, which was difficult for humans. Katsumi felt his punches were too weak to defeat Pickle. Retsu believed they still had potential, and said maximizing mental focus could create a great technique. Then Kaku appeared and laughed at their approach, mentioning his 146 years of experience, claiming their techniques were still primitive. He decided to demonstrate once, unleashing a supersonic egg-cutting strike before them. That night Katsumi trained tirelessly without rest. Kaku instructed him to imagine his rigid bones bending into flexible segments, pushing his imagination to new heights. And he succeeded in cracking the egg. The initial step succeeded, but he kept pushing to perfect it. Katsumi's joints were now divided into multiple segments, all linking together to create an incredibly destructive attack, its pressure causing everything to tremble. And he named his new technique the one-shot strike. All his juniors admired him greatly. Katsumi quickly contacted Tokugawa to arrange a fight with Pickle, accepting a life or death match, where losing meant being eaten. The next day everything was prepared. He arrived at the arena and stepped into the ring. All his dojo members cheered loudly, creating a suffocating atmosphere, terrifying anyone who witnessed that intense spirit. Katsumi confidently approached Pickle. Pickle rushed forward as Katsumi unleashed countless strikes in a single second, delivering a critical blow to a vital point, each powerful hit causing pain wherever it landed. But it had merely warmed Pickle up. Now Pickle grew interested in his opponent, immediately kicking Katsumi and sending him flying. Katsumi trembled, realizing his opponent was truly a monster, forcing him to use the one-shot strike he had just mastered. Pickle shifted into hunting mode, and both charged at each other. Katsumi successfully landed the one-shot strike, making Pickle imagine being struck by a dinosaur's tail, showing the attack's immense power. The crowd erupted seeing Pickle shaken, yet Katsumi knew it barely hurt him. To achieve 10 times the damage, he sacrificed one of his fists. Katsumi felt proud, elevating karate to a new level. Though further attacks could cripple his limbs, they finally knocked Pickle down. Everyone cheered in celebration, but the battle's cost was brutal, as Katsumi risked his life. Then Pickle recovered, gazing with a hungry smile. Seeing his prey exhausted, ready to claim his meal, Pickle entered hunting mode again, which Retsu immediately recognized, knowing it was the finishing move. Yet Katsumi told everyone not to worry, as he still had a final technique. When Pickle charged, he imagined his arm as a whip, dealing 20 times the damage of the one-shot strike, forming a perfect lash striking the opponent. Pickle took the full hit and flew hundreds of meters away. But the price was agonizing, as Katsumi's arm was reduced to bone. Yet his warrior pride kept him fearless. He advanced toward his opponent, declaring victory once more. Everyone cheered loudly, believing it would be a historic karate match. But another surprise came. In celebration, Katsumi realized Pickle was merely asleep, meaning victory had not been achieved. This was Pickle's fighting method, waiting until prey exhausted itself, then collapsing on its own. Tears fell from Pickle as he felt blessed with food. Katsumi knew he could not avoid the pact, so he offered himself to be eaten. Pickle bit into Katsumi's arm and feasted. Although Katsumi lost, he felt proud for winning everyone's hearts. Tokugawa could not bear the sight, ordering soldiers to aim guns at Pickle, trying to stop the madness. But Dopo appeared to stop Tokugawa, saying interference would dishonor Katsumi, because a loser's life belonged to the victor. But unexpectedly, Pickle showed an act of gratitude, because in the prehistoric Jurassic way of life there were only rules of fighting, winning, and eating the prey. Yet after experiencing this world, Pickle realized that these small humans possessed strength equal to dinosaurs he once battled. So he greatly admired that, and could not bring himself to eat his prey this time, as he was satisfied with the hunt. All the members paid their respects toward Katsumi, because their leader had given everything for a perfect match, and bowed in admiration. After this experience, Katsumi had matured greatly, and wished to collaborate with Retsu to inspire future martial artists. Baki also came to visit, although he and Katsumi were not usually close. Witnessing that battle earned Baki's deep respect. He offered sincere praise, and declared he would be the next to defeat Pickle. Returning to his training room, Baki tried to visualize Pickle. Though he had seen his skills, he still could not fully imagine him, because Pickle's strength far surpassed his own. And Retsu arrived. Baki became extremely excited, describing the feeling as indescribable, like after being embraced by a lover. A joy difficult to express. Baki promised to create a surprising match against Pickle. Meanwhile, his older brother Jack beat him to it, arriving to face Pickle first. The language remained a barrier. Pickle understood the challenge, recognizing each prey had unique traits, and this one seemed fiercer than others. Jack struck Pickle with a punch, confirming Pickle's skeleton was incredibly durable. As he endured it without reaction, Jack became fascinated by Pickle's sharp fangs, signaling the battle would revolve around them. So they fought using their teeth, biting each other like lovers sharing an intense kiss, locked in a fierce clash. No matter how Jack struggled, Pickle refused to release him. Eventually the biting battle ended. Jack suffered more facial injuries. Pickle approached intending to bite again, but Jack countered with an uppercut, launching Pickle skyward, pouring full power into the strike. Yet Pickle remained unharmed, entering hunting mode, acknowledging Jack as prey and charging wildly. Jack used all his strength to throw Pickle into the stands, his muscles straining at maximum output. Jack rushed onto the stage, grabbing him, relentlessly attacking without mercy, then hurling Pickle back into the arena and continuing the assault. Fueled by years of physical training, Jack sacrificed much to reach this state. Wanting Pickle to understand the power of sacrifice, he bit off Pickle's ear and tore it in half. Pickle was shocked by Jack's madness, as it was the first time he felt pain from being bitten. He deemed it unforgivable. Seeing this prey as arrogant, Jack followed with another punch at Pickle. An inexplicable phenomenon occurred, as the opponent stood still, yet Jack's punch somehow missed. So Jack decided to try again, but the second strike ended exactly the same way. The truth became clear as the dust settled. Pickle had dodged and used his strength to rebound off the wall back to position, leaving his opponent in shock. Then Pickle rushed forward and attacked Jack wildly. Jack endured blow after blow like thunder strikes without touching the ground, and Pickle delivered a finishing strike that sent Jack crashing into the wall. Pickle once again performed a wild dance to celebrate, pleased to enjoy another tasty prey. But when he was about to eat, he suddenly became frightened and turned away. Jack reminded him of a time he ate a bee, which tasted good but stung painfully inside his mouth, tormenting him for days without sleep or food. So today he sensed this prey was similar. Tokugawa came over and touched Jack, and Jack unleashed a final move that would have defeated Pickle had he tried to eat him. Fortunately, Tokugawa was under a meter away, otherwise his eardrum would have burst. Jack was quickly taken in for emergency treatment. Doctors worked to restore him. Yet only hours later Jack saw Pickle again, this time attacking more decisively, frightening Pickle into retreat, as Pickle believed prey should not revive to seek revenge. But when pressure peaked, instinct forced resistance. Pickle struck Jack with full force, spinning him thousands of times, leaving Jack headfirst in the ground, motionless. Jack was hospitalized again, and shortly after waking he pursued Pickle once more, ignoring attempts to stop him. Baki arrived and revealed the truth. By then Pickle viewed Jack as leftover food, hanging him from a high building pole, to dry and store him while evaporating toxins. Jack was furious hearing this, realizing he was treated as waste. Baki then went to the arena to await Pickle. Though Pickle showed little interest, Baki approached and petted him like a pet, infuriating Pickle, who finally reacted. Baki taunted him while attacking. Pickle absorbed the blows and fell to the ground. Baki removed his clothes, preparing for battle, charging with relentless attacks, causing Pickle to panic and flee. Yet Baki refused to let him escape, forcing Pickle to grab him and leap skyward, both free falling together, crashing with tremendous impact, appearing unharmed outwardly, but internally Baki suffered severe injuries. The fall shattered his organs, feeling as though crushed by a massive stone. Pickle sensed this and felt guilty, apologizing to his new friend with clasped hands. But Baki saw it as humiliation, striking Pickle in the face. The blow caused intense pain. Yet Baki still wished to fight fully, surprising Pickle, who responded with an intentionally slow strike to provoke him. Baki felt insulted. Deciding to prove his strength, he repeated the high fall once more, astonishing Pickle again, leaving him stunned. As Baki continued attacking Pickle, Pickle stood up and stepped forward. Suddenly his brain began to tremble non-stop. Pickle thought Baki was a wizard manipulating the ground. Pickle felt he couldn't keep his footing out of fear, even though he had experienced far more terrifying things. This was an indescribable experience for Pickle. Baki began to unleash another new technique, which was his ultimate skill. His body looked loose and fragile, but when he attacked, the damage was extremely high. This skill caused opponents to scream in pain. Today, Pickle experienced that pain. Pickle immediately shifted into his hunting state. Baki kept changing his finishing techniques, using martial stances he had learned from various insects and animals. To Pickle, those beasts were just toys, so he didn't understand what Baki was trying to accomplish. Suddenly, Baki unleashed a supreme technique forming a giant rhinoceros shape, followed by dinosaurs Pickle once fought. Pickle became extremely frightened and panicked, not expecting Baki to recreate beasts from his era to protect himself. Baki charged forward with a direct attack, knocking Pickle to the ground. Not stopping there, Baki delivered several follow-up blows. Pickle angrily counterattacked right away, but Baki suddenly stopped, letting him charge in. Baki flicked his opponent away using just one finger. That skill alone impressed everyone immensely. People realized Baki's martial state had reached a higher level. Baki even urinated on the arena floor to insult his opponent, because the arena was considered Pickle's territory. Pickle went mad after witnessing this. He immediately returned and attacked Baki mercilessly. Pickle unleashed rapid consecutive kicks at Baki, but Baki showed no sign of remorse. Pickle followed with a hook kick that sent Baki flying into the air. Pickle's attacks now landed with full force and precision. He kept striking harder and more frequently, but he became horrified when he saw his attacks all missed. He rushed in and grabbed Baki to see what was going on. Yet Baki's dodging speed was too fast for the naked eye to see. Pickle resorted to attacking wildly, thinking that might hit his opponent. At that moment, Baki formed a sword, then punched straight into Pickle's weak point. Pickle could only scream and cry in pain. The pain made him spin around 360 degrees non-stop. Baki was delighted to see Pickle like that. Pickle shifted into his destruction mode. The bulging muscles across his body activated. This was Pickle's berserk state. With old scars becoming visible again, Pickle launched an attack at Baki. Baki gathered his strength to block the blows. Baki remained indifferent, saying things Pickle couldn't understand. Pickle understood nothing, only knowing he needed to unleash intense attacks. Baki began channeling all his martial arts mastery into punch after punch. The two struggled fiercely against each other. Baki's effective strikes made his opponent cry out. The intense fight unfolded in a flash. Baki currently held the upper hand. He successfully kicked Pickle far away. It seemed the outcome was decided. But suddenly Baki proposed another challenge. The two would engage in a direct fistfight without dodging or retreating. They immediately traded punches non-stop. But eventually Baki's endurance couldn't match Pickle's. He collapsed onto the arena floor. Surprisingly, Pickle did not eat him. Instead, he treated it as the formation of a bond of friendship with Baki. Baki was quickly taken away by the rescue team for treatment. Pickle sensed the strength of modern humans. That evening, they had a meeting on the rooftop. Perhaps Pickle had nearly adapted to modern life. Debates among nations around the world continued, with Pickle involved in the controversy. A vote took place among countries, and more votes favored returning Pickle to salt preservation. This deeply disappointed Professor Payne, because he had come to see Pickle as his own child. Unexpectedly, Pickle appeared and brought Mr. Stridham a special gift. Pickle believed he had kept his promise. From that point on, no one saw Pickle's presence again. After the life and death battle with Pickle, Baki was taken to the hospital for a full medical examination. The doctor was astonished by the damage to many parts of his body. The doctor gave Baki advice about living a healthy life. But Baki said he was used to this kind of life. So these injuries were nothing more than ant bites to him. Later, The doctor was very surprised by images taken of Baki's brain, as the folds of his brain were far more developed than those of ordinary people. It even had a shape resembling a demon. This shocked the neurologist, because it was the first case he had ever seen. With these brain folds, it could process tasks at a speed of 0.1 seconds per action, making everyone wish they could possess such a brain. Baki left the hospital with great confidence, the killing intent in his gaze making the city's rats scatter in fear. Today was a special day for Baki, as he had a date with his girlfriend. Baki was eager to meet her after such a long time apart. But unexpectedly she was thinking about Ali. That had been an unforgettable night for her, because she witnessed the emotional outburst of a young fighter. Ali's emotional tears stirred her deeply, and she couldn't hold herself back and embraced him. She held him tightly until he finally calmed down. Their bodies were drenched in sweat due to the intense heat. Ali thanked her greatly for her kindness, as she had helped lift his spirits. He wanted to repay that kindness by confessing his feelings to her. But unexpectedly his heartfelt affection was only met with pity. She saw him merely as an older brother figure, and their relationship ended there. She did not feel romantic love toward him, so she hoped he would treat that day as just a memory. Ali left sadly, thinking he had found true love. The next day, she went to school with Baki, and their relationship had improved greatly. Only Baki could bring her happiness. That day, Baki was confronted by delinquents demanding protection money, and they pulled out knives to threaten him. Baki's brain activated a high defensive response, making his opponents tremble as their knives seemed to shrink into uselessness. Luckily, Old Man Curry arrived in time, preventing something unfortunate from happening to the delinquents. So they panicked and fled immediately. Afterwards, Baki and Curry talked after many years apart. He wanted Baki to carry out a revenge plan for the mistress, as a confrontation between Baki and his father was inevitable. Of course, Baki couldn't forget the fight with his father 5 years earlier, when his mother wholeheartedly cheered him on to face him. It was heartbreaking that Baki collapsed after just one blow, and that drove him to train relentlessly. Baki didn't realize that his mother once married into the richest family in the world, but became drawn to a charismatic man like Yuhiro, whose combat displays fascinated her. This awakened her inner desires, and Yuhiro saw it in her eyes. So that night he went straight to her room, igniting the desires within her. They crossed the line together that night, and from then on she became a completely different person. She carried the mission of training Baki into an elite fighter, forcing him to train endlessly to earn Yuhiro's love. And of course, Baki was merely a token exchanged for their affection. On the day of the match when Baki failed to satisfy Yuhiro, he would abandon her and act as if their relationship had never happened. So Baki's mother desperately longed for that love. She did not hesitate to beat her own son in front of everyone, which broke Baki's heart, so he resolved to defeat his father. Somewhat brutal, Baki felt she had been satisfied in that moment, so he didn't know how to face his father afterward. He didn't know whether their relationship could even be considered one of enemies, because on that very day his mother rose up to protect her child, daring to attack Yuhiro and shout provocations at him. And the heartbreaking ending was that she sacrificed her life to save Baki. He used those moments as motivation, and Baki believed that one day he could defeat his father, wanting to repay his mother's hopes for him, not to seek revenge for himself. On a certain day, Yuhiro felt like visiting his friend Oliva, since it had been too long since they last tested their strength together. Yuhiro wanted to see whether his friend had grown old, and why he had lost to his own son. Oliva quickly charged in to attack first, but Yuhiro punched him straight in the face, sending him flying into a wall. That blow wasn't enough against Oliva's massive muscles, so he rushed in to test his grip strength against Yuhiro, though that was foolish since Yuhiro feared no fighting style. Meanwhile, Captain Stridum was training martial arts, teaching soldiers combat skills, and invited one to spar. But the soldier had barely charged forward before Stridum kicked him in a vital spot, leaving him frozen and stunned on the spot. Afterwards, he easily defeated more soldiers, combining various martial techniques. After training, Stridum quickly developed a mysterious weapon, with destructive power comparable to a bomb. Of course, in preparation for sparring with his special old friend, as they tested their strength yearly to maintain their bond. That person was none other than the monster Yuhiro. And this year Stridum used rather cruel weaponry, which made Yuhiro laugh in delight, seeing his old friend grow bolder, even equipping himself with a strange armored suit. Yuhiro swiftly kicked the helmet clean off the armor, leaving Stridum frozen as the speed exceeded all expectation. Yet he refused to give up, as he carried numerous explosives and special weapons. He continued provoking his opponent, but he didn't realize Yuhiro's supersonic strike had immense destructive power, easily shattering his armor, and the friendly match concluded, when Stridum's bombs malfunctioned and detonated, injuring himself. Meanwhile, Baki continued training tirelessly, using his extraordinary imagination method, visualizing his heavyweight opponent as his father. In his mind, Yuhiro had 3 times his body and strength, and the fistfight immediately began, shaking the surroundings like an earthquake, causing a nearby dog to panic and relieve itself on the spot. While Baki took the punch head-on and collapsed instantly, Retsu suddenly abandoned his role as a master and went to a karate center, enrolling as a student with some plan in mind. This was shocking, seeing a master do such a thing, as if he intended to take over the karate centers as his own schools. Retsu didn't hesitate to demonstrate his strength, shattering a punching bag with a light punch, leaving everyone in the room stunned by his power. One man was a semi-pro boxing champion, and after witnessing Retsu shatter a punching bag, he became very interested and wanted to test his strength against Retsu. But Retsu refused after seeing his opponent, because he feared the ambulance wouldn't arrive in time to save the man's life. Yet the guy kept provoking him and wasn't afraid at all, so Retsu didn't hesitate to teach him a lesson. He would set aside his usual martial arts, and this time use karate to fight his opponent. The match began and the opponent rushed in with an attack, but Retsu quickly landed a straight punch to his face, leaving the opponent lying motionless on the spot. Everyone who witnessed it was shocked by Retsu's power, and after that fight, everyone in the room feared him. The center's owner criticized Retsu for not training by the rules, but Retsu listened to no one. He dismissed everyone at the center, and continued challenging all the students to defeat him. If they won, they could do anything they wanted to him, and this created an unprecedented provocation at the karate center. Soon after, they invited a foreign master to compete, and this time the coach even worried about Retsu's safety, not hesitating to put protective headgear on him. The match between the two sides began, and Retsu quickly analyzed his opponent's movements. The opponent struck first and sent Retsu crashing onto the mat, so Retsu immediately changed his strategy. This time he used his head to receive the opponent's punch, making the strike feel like it shattered into fragments, leaving the opponent trembling under the pressure. Retsu seized that moment to unleash powerful blows, forcing his opponent to surrender. After that victory, Retsu's name began to be pursued by the boxing world, as Kaiser flew to Japan just to meet him. The once obscure small gym now attracted famous visitors. Kaiser only wanted to verify those rippling muscles, and asked Retsu to demonstrate a bit of his strength, since fame had found him. Retsu obliged, throwing an air punch before Kaiser, which astonished him when it pierced a glove. But Retsu felt insecure, believing himself too weak to show such worn equipment to others. Kaiser, however, felt differently, seeing that power as worthy of use, and not wanting to waste a fighter like Retsu. So Kaiser invited him to a famous arena, to participate in real karate matches, where Kung Fu's reputation would spread widely, and of course rewards would follow. If Retsu won his matches, Retsu became swept up by these promises, and accepted traveling with him to the United States. Meanwhile, Baki had developed gentler interests, as he had matured far beyond before. He took care of himself with simple meals, and everything seemed uneventful. Yet Baki still suffered deeply from parental emotional absence. He often imagined his father sitting and eating with him, though their relationship could never be repaired, as Yuhiro's nature was impossible to please. So Baki simply carried his books to school, where his girlfriend waited outside his house, jealous after hearing him talking to someone inside. She didn't realize Baki was struggling internally, feeling the lack of his father's affection. Even by evening he didn't forget training. And today he would learn the extraordinary skills of a cockroach, because despite its small size, it's the only creature capable of reaching top speed instantly. If a cockroach were the size of a human, It could be compared to a high-speed train. One day Baki discovered the cockroaches' secrets, realizing their bodies are filled almost entirely with liquid, and that helps them move with lightning speed. So Baki imitated it, relaxing his entire body as if melting into water. And in that instant he moved so fast he left a trail of sweat behind him, which greatly excited him, because he had successfully learned this skill. Meanwhile, Kaiser brought Retsu to the city of Las Vegas, a paradise for the elite. But Retsu felt no interest in it at all. To him, everything in that city was artificial. Just people trying to make things look flashy and glamorous. Kaiser said everything here could be faked. But creating a genuine, powerful Retsu could only happen once. Which was why he invited him to this city, with the goal of sweeping away the imposters there, and establishing Retsu's reputation. So they agreed to go to a professional arena, a venue famous for boxing. Today Kaiser would introduce to everyone a martial arts talent from Japan. Someone who would bring nightmares to the boxing world. But behind those bold words, he was actually terrified, afraid that if Retsu didn't step into the ring, Kaiser knew he'd be done for. He quickly provoked a former world champion with insults, trying to force him to accept Retsu's challenge. Yet that still wasn't enough for the champion to fight an unknown. Kaiser staged a brick chopping display in the ring to build pressure. And Retsu was deeply disappointed, thinking he would be introduced publicly, only to be dragged into an underground match, with bricks displayed as if to humiliate him. Retsu needed something stronger to prove his power, and with one strike he crushed the bricks into dust. The match was soon arranged by Kaiser, and the media grew excited awaiting the fight, as it would pit Kung Fu against a former boxing champion. The day arrived, and the arena buzzed with energy. Retsu entered with powerful momentum, while the former champion played to the crowd, and the referee declared the fight begun. The champion moved first at incredible speed, but Retsu calmly observed and analyzed him, then unexpectedly turned toward his corner, shocking everyone, who thought he was putting himself at a disadvantage. The opponent was delighted, believing his prey had offered itself up, and rushed in to attack. In a moment, Retsu blinded him, leaving him panicked, not knowing what was happening, before receiving Retsu's finishing blow that ended the fight. Afterward, Kaiser congratulated Retsu with a block of cash, praising his performance the night before, certain his name would spread across America, thanks to his instant finishing techniques. Fans screamed endlessly in excitement, though it still wasn't enough for Retsu. His fierce interview pushed his reputation higher, so Kaiser rewarded him with an enormous sum of money, and Retsu became famous. Unexpectedly, he taught Kaiser a lesson in respect, telling him not to put his feet on the table when speaking to others. Meanwhile, Baki continued living healthily, making himself cups of excellent coffee, when suddenly he sensed his father's killing intent approaching, which filled him with excitement. Baki politely welcomed his father into his home with courtesy. He offered his father a cup of freshly brewed, fragrant coffee, and Yuhiro took a sip. Although Baki was trying to repair their father-son relationship, Yuhiro's cold eyes always made him feel uneasy, and ready to defend against anything that might happen. After all, they were still father and son, so Baki wanted to feel his father's affection. But when it came to fighting, he hadn't changed at all. Baki promised he would defeat him someday at the right time, and Yuhiro sensed his son's feelings. Yet he considered Baki's terrible coffee as a form of provocation. Seeing that, Baki quickly apologized, surprising Yuhiro that he didn't resist. Though in truth he just wanted his house to stay intact, because if they fought there, he'd end up sleeping on the street. Even though Baki wanted to mend their relationship, Yuhiro had no interest in family affection, since strength mattered above all to him. Yuhiro told Baki not to act superior, saying the weak end up badly, and urged him to fight with his strength, promising that if Baki won, he could ask anything of him. This deeply moved Baki, believing his father had given him a chance to reconnect. Meanwhile, the foolish Shiba listened to Hanayama's urging, and went to challenge Baki. Even knowing it was like throwing eggs at a rock, Shiba stripped off his clothes and showed his tattoos, entering the fight without reason. Since Hanayama gave none, Shiba tossed away his cigarette and rushed in, but he was far too weak, collapsing from a single punch by Baki. Still, he refused to give up, charging again at extreme speed, aiming for Baki's vital spots. Yet Baki wouldn't make it easy. especially since he had a date tonight. Shiba stubbornly continued, until in a moment Baki landed several blows, leaving Shiba unable to stand again. Meanwhile, Retsu entered a tournament against champion Zu, nicknamed the Smoke, whose punches were overwhelmingly powerful, trapping opponents with no escape. Their match soon began, and Retsu approached using crab-like footwork. But Zu quickly struck him, forcing Retsu into a defensive stance. Zu's attack seemed simple, yet caused pain throughout the body, like knives cutting into flesh, knocking Retsu down with a direct punch. The sensation wasn't like normal blows, because Zu mastered his gloves, turning them into deadly boxing weapons. By the time Retsu realized, it was too late, and he couldn't control the match, forced only to dodge repeatedly. He switched to defense to buy time and recover his mind. But no matter what he tried, Zu remained a nightmare, though luckily Retsu narrowly evaded another strike, using Kung Fu to redirect the attack. Yet this wasn't a long-term solution against such a strong opponent, as Zu wouldn't allow a comeback. Meanwhile, Shiba wasn't about to let Baki off easily, and Baki couldn't understand how he endured such punishment. Despite rejecting the challenge many times, Shiba ignored all advice, continuing to charge forward, until Baki slapped him once, knocking him unconscious again. Baki wondered why Shiba kept provoking him, but it was merely Shiba's feigned death. As he rose again, and began loosening up his muscles, he continued provoking Baki no matter what. Baki had no choice but to indulge Shiba once, but as he stepped toward the door, a punch burst through it. Baki took the full hit to the face, and it hurt badly. Shiba quickly walked in and bragged about his skills. This was Shiba's super punch. He took advantage of the moment and threw Baki out into the yard. Baki realized Shiba's hidden strength. Even though he lacked skill, Shiba feared nothing, so he wasn't intimidated by any opponent at all. Although Shiba looked confident, deep down he knew he couldn't defeat Baki. Yet he kept charging in to attack anyway. Regardless of the outcome, Shiba unleashed a powerful hook. But surprisingly, Baki didn't dodge. He faced him head-on and counterattacked with extremely powerful strikes. Shiba ended up lying unconscious on the ground again after taking the hits. So Baki went back inside to fix the broken door. After going out to buy some food, he ran into Shiba again. Once again, Shiba challenged Baki. This time Baki said nothing. He immediately delivered a punch to Shiba's face, and Shiba collapsed unconscious right where he stood. Still, Baki acknowledged Shiba's stubbornness, so he decided to test a new technique. The two charged at each other again. Baki deliberately took the opponent's attack head-on. He wanted to feel the pain Shiba had endured. But things weren't quite like that. In reality, this method reflected damage back onto his opponent, causing Shiba to break several bones from the overwhelming impact. Baki told Shiba to give up the fight and go treat his injuries. But Shiba said if Baki could withstand his one-finger strike, he would admit defeat. Baki accepted the challenge and agreed to go along with it. He told Shiba to aim carefully, because this was a professional move performed only once. Baki used the cockroach speed technique he had learned and dashed toward Shiba. Moving like a rocket, Baki was blown backward as well, and Shiba froze in shock. He had spoken boldly, but Baki actually did it. So Shiba admitted defeat and returned to report everything to Hanayama. He told him about Baki's new skills. Meanwhile, Retsu was being continuously attacked by his opponent, struck so hard that his brain kept shaking. In that moment, Retsu remembered Kaku's teachings. He sensed the vibrations in his brain and launched a corresponding counterattack, aiming to reverse the motion and restore balance. Retsu quickly regained his form, and the match returned to an even contest. But Retsu still couldn't gain the upper hand. He continued using his kung fu, quickly striking so his opponent couldn't react. Then he used everything he had to attempt a finishing blow. But the champion Zu forced himself back up and kept fighting. The two clashed fiercely again, with relentless exchanges of attacks. Retsu then used a feint to distract his opponent and successfully landed his strike, causing Zu to stagger under the heavy blows. Retsu took the upper hand, and it seemed the fight would end here as he prepared another kung fu move. He performed a beautiful aerial spin, knocking his opponent down on the spot. But the champion Zu got back up again. Retsu launched merciless attacks. Zu countered with precise hits of his own. Even when Retsu dodged, Zu still targeted him accurately. Zu seized the chance and attacked relentlessly. This forced Retsu to deliver a decisive finishing strike. But Zu truly was formidable, a worthy opponent equal to Retsu. Retsu had no choice but to use his ultimate technique to win. He struck the most vulnerable point of the human body, capable of paralyzing nerves and causing instant unconsciousness. And thus, victory went to Retsu. Retsu felt guilty for using that technique on the champion Zu. But unexpectedly, another famous champion held Retsu back. He also declared that the victory belonged to Retsu. Meanwhile, Baki casually went out to buy more ingredients. He was preparing for an intimate meal, because today he would be welcoming an honored guest to his home. Baki prepared the dishes carefully and delicately, confident they wouldn't disappoint his father. Yujiro entered without saying a word and began enjoying Baki's meal. This surprised Baki greatly, and it made him awkward as he shared a meal with his father. Even more surprising, Yujiro reminded Baki about his table manners, and gave him strict guidance. This made Baki feel extremely happy, though he was also somewhat nervous. Yujiro even added some nutritional knowledge during the meal, leaving Baki obedient and admiring his father's dining style. Baki then did something unexpected. After inviting his father to dinner, he told him to go wash the dishes. Even though he knew it wouldn't happen, he still wanted to see how Yujiro would react. Surprisingly, Yujiro acted childishly, suggesting they play rock paper scissors to decide who would wash them. The two had an intense showdown, and Baki won the match. But things weren't that simple. Yujiro used his scissors to cut Baki's rock, then turned it into paper to win, leaving Baki speechless and forced to wash the dishes. To be fair, Yujiro later invited Baki to an elegant dinner at a 5-star restaurant. Baki arrived on time, and found himself in a very luxurious place, making him feel out of place. A waiter quickly guided him to a VIP room. Baki could only marvel at his father's extravagance. Even more surprising, Yujiro wore an extremely elegant suit, while scolding Baki for looking pitiful, for not dressing properly for such a fancy venue. But Baki didn't hesitate to respond, saying he had never been taught proper etiquette. He had only been taught to become the strongest. So if Yujiro wanted to test those skills, he was ready to fight him right there. Yujiro restrained himself and told Baki to sit down. The father and son enjoyed the restaurant's dishes together, and Yujiro instructed Baki on proper fine dining etiquette. Baki was fascinated to experience a noble meal like this. Yet he had a secret question he had always wanted to ask. About why Yujiro killed his mother years ago. That question provoked an immediate reaction. Yujiro felt Baki had crossed the line, daring to ask forbidden things. He grew furious, feeling disrespected, and Baki even provoked him further. Baki declared he was ready for a life-or-death fight with his father. This angered Yujiro greatly, and he decided to discipline his rebellious son that very day. He wouldn't allow himself to be humiliated. Yujiro immediately attacked Baki. One strike nearly sent Baki flying out of the building, but he managed to hold on. Otherwise, he might not have survived. Baki felt deeply uneasy, because his monstrous father always inspired fear. Yujiro grabbed Baki's hands, intending to punish him for grabbing someone by the collar. But Baki instinctively pulled away, knowing that taking the hit would be disastrous. Yujiro quickly kicked him, sending Baki crashing through a wall, for daring to disrespect his father. Though Baki resisted, he was still far too weak in comparison. Yujiro would act like a true father to discipline him. The two of them descended together, from the 36th floor down to the ground. The president's car was smashed during the brawl between the father and son. If an ordinary person fell from that height, they wouldn't survive. At this point, Baki had passed out after hitting the ground. But Yujiro's lesson wouldn't stop that easily. Having eaten his fill, Yujiro felt it was time to exercise for better digestion. Baki was pulled back to his feet by his father. At that moment, Baki took advantage and slapped Yujiro across the face. Then Baki immediately felt regret for striking his own father. Yujiro responded with a painful slap for Baki's insolence. The police quickly arrived to stop the fight between them. But when they saw Yujiro's deadly glare, they all ran away immediately. Yujiro decided he would teach Baki to respect his father today. He continued lecturing while acting, saying no child should ever strike their father like that. Baki angrily fired back at his father's lecture, and even threw his shoes at Yuhiro's face. But such tricks did nothing to Yujiro. A mere intimidation was enough to make Baki hesitate. Yujiro delivered another painful kick, like the way he abandoned Baki when he was young. Then Yujiro decided to broaden Baki's horizons with his whip technique. He believed anyone would fear this attack, as it represented the parental lesson often used to discipline children. Disobeying your parents would bring pain like this. To Yujiro, his teachings were absolute, and he demanded Baki obey and carry them out. He continued instructing through action, but Baki remained stubborn, refusing to listen and continuing to attack Yujiro. Hoping his father would feel the pain of being struck, Yujiro flexed all his muscles to block the blow, allowing Baki to vent his frustration. Sensing Baki's disappointment, Yujiro let him attack first again. Yet when Baki charged, he was blasted back into a wall. Yujiro felt Baki had been playing around, unable to hurt him at all. Yujiro then lowered himself and urged Baki to give everything he had learned. This excited Baki greatly, as it was the first time he had seen his father yield. Baki unleashed his newly mastered technique. He relaxed his body until it seemed to melt like liquid, and when vapor-like motion appeared, he used the cockroach-inspired speed he had learned. Baki rushed forward and grabbed Yujiro, the two struggling fiercely together. Baki then unleashed rapid strikes, even sending Yujiro crashing through several restroom doors. But it didn't injure him in the slightest. Yujiro hurled Baki backward, cracking the wall. Suddenly something strange caught Yujiro off guard. As many people had gathered to watch him discipline his son, spectators cheered non-stop while watching them, and the scene went viral online. Fans from everywhere gathered to watch, surrounding the building to witness the legendary fight. This made Yujiro uncomfortable. He leapt down and told Baki to stop, but Baki refused, wanting to show his strength before thousands of fans. So Baki charged again at his father. Yujiro simply stood there and endured the blows. Baki's strikes were too fast for the naked eye, leaving fans unable to follow the action. Yujiro finally accepted his rebellious son's challenge. Baki used his cockroach speed technique once more to attack, but this time it had no effect, as Yujiro was serious. Of course, he couldn't lose face in public like that. He delivered a powerful blow that left Baki writhing on the ground. Although Baki tried to resist his father, no matter what he did, he was beaten mercilessly. Baki refused to give up or collapse like this, because this was the clash he had long awaited. He charged again, ready to continue attacking. He launched strikes, but Yujiro read them all. Yujiro decided to play around a bit with Baki, allowing him to freely punch and kick his body. Against the strongest man in the world, Baki felt basic attacks were useless, so he resorted to prehistoric martial arts. Baki summoned the image of an ancient rhinoceros. This surprised Yujiro at the sight of that form. He even grew interested in the attack, anticipating being charged by the beast. Yujiro accepted the challenge, and Baki rushed toward him, imagining a gigantic rhino crashing into his body. The force pushed Yujiro back hundreds of meters, slamming him into a car. Everyone watching was left stunned. Yujiro then prepared to show Baki his own crafted technique, one that required no physical form, which he called the embodiment of fist. It combined strength and muscle, creating shockwaves that echoed outward. To prove its power, Yujiro demonstrated it before everyone and Baki. Suddenly Baki reminded him that true importance lay in strength, not the tricks meant to frighten opponents. He instantly used a lightning-fast technique, knocking Yujiro down. Fortunately, Yujiro regained consciousness quickly, or he might have lost face before the crowd. Yujiro praised Baki, saying his unique skill surprised him. He beckoned Baki closer to pat his head, which was actually a psychological tactic. Though Baki claimed he didn't need it, his heart secretly longed for it. This created a conflict within him. He didn't know whether to follow heart or reason. It was difficult, because it targeted the affection he had always lacked. Seeing his father's sincerity and gentle hands, Baki couldn't resist and accepted, even knowing it was Yuhiro's trap. Yet in a moment he listened to reason and tried to avoid temptation. But it was already too late. as Yuhiro's psychological move had lowered his guard. Yuhiro grabbed him tightly, refusing to let go. No matter how Baki struggled, he continued tormenting Baki, striking his head as if handling a pet. This split Baki's emotions in two extremes. His heart felt joy, while his mind fought back in resistance. In an instant, Baki threw a kick, but Yuhiro countered, making Baki strike himself painfully. Yuhiro then hurled him away, spinning him thousands of times. The moment Baki touched the ground, Yuhiro launched another attack. There was no longer any restraint in those blows, as Yuhiro pushed himself fully so Baki could break his limits. Yet he realized Baki was too weak to withstand it. Yuhiro prepared to deliver the finishing strike, when suddenly Pickle appeared. Pickle intended to intervene in their fight, but Baki rushed forward and punched Pickle in the face, knocking several of his teeth flying. This made Pickle extremely angry. But when he sensed Baki's killing intent, he became startled. Pickle realized he had meddled in someone else's business, and now he had even lost his legendary tooth. After drawing motivation from Pickle, Baki resumed the fight with his father, but he still couldn't defeat him, and before he could act, he was knocked to the ground again. Yuhiro continued mocking and provoking Baki, saying entering a fight just to lie around was unacceptable. He launched a fierce kick, but this time Baki managed to dodge. Baki then began using a new strategy, becoming serious and placing both hands in his pockets. Yuhiro didn't hesitate to accept the game. Copying Baki's stance, both stood still, waiting for the other to move. After standing like that for a while, Yuhiro grew bored, as it wasted too much time. So he changed the rules, counting to 5 before both would attack. This shocked Baki, leaving him no choice but to evade. Yet Yuhiro struck first with a powerful punch. At that moment, Baki countered, and managed to throw his father to the ground. Even he couldn't believe he had done it, since no one had dared treat Yuhiro like that before. Yuhiro then showed what true strength meant, punching hard enough to crack the road, and with his other hand sending Baki flying. The impact terrified Baki so badly he wet himself. He realized his father was truly serious. Yet he still charged forward to attack. Yuhiro suddenly knocked him away with a kung fu display, then unleashed his power, revealing the demon face on his back. This left the fans in awe. While Yuhiro prayed his son would survive the final battle, his strikes were now amplified tenfold, overwhelming Baki completely. Blow after blow struck him with multiplied force, as fear left Baki unable to form a strategy. Yuhiro showed no mercy, leaving Baki battered and his clothes shredded. At that moment, something beyond reason seemed to aid Baki, as his grandfather appeared. This shocked Yuhiro deeply, seeing him instead of reincarnated elsewhere. Watching them fight, the grandfather encouraged his grandson, then vanished. That reminded Yuhiro of an impressive technique from his father, which he decided to demonstrate immediately. He grabbed Baki and spun him around, turning him into a pair of nunchaku, swinging him wildly, leaving Baki dizzy and disoriented. With blood flow disrupted, Baki began losing consciousness. Yuhiro acted insanely toward his own son, forgetting their familial bond. The chaos caused tremors, sending people running, and it seemed everything was over. He even hurled Baki straight into a car, treating him like a weapon for training. No one could understand his purpose. But under such tension, Baki felt intense pain from the collisions. His body began reacting instinctively, pushing beyond its limits, entering a state of infinite instinct. Then Baki prepared a surprise for Yuhiro, crafting it even while enduring impacts. To heighten the moment, Baki attacked first, now wielding skills at a far higher level, striking back at his father with tremendous force. This was the first time he had experienced punches that actually caused him pain. And Yuhiro felt great joy seeing Baki capable of injuring him. Deep down, he had grown bored standing at the top of the world, as life had become nearly meaningless with everything in his grasp. And of course, no one could truly understand that loneliness. Baki continued pressing his advantage with relentless attacks, because he wanted to fulfill the promise he once made to his mother. That made Yuhiro extremely satisfied, knowing he had successfully trained his son into maturity. Baki also felt exhilarated carrying genuine Hanma blood, and it was precisely that which granted him today's strength. This was the wonderful day he had always dreamed of, getting to punch his own father. Baki fully enjoyed sparring with the strongest man in the world, something he had never had the level to do before. He relished unleashing the power within himself, fighting someone no one else dared to confront. Their battle was likened to gods clashing, as fans silently watched every move of the Hanma father and son. They traded blows endlessly, struggling fiercely for hours without either falling. Both sought to settle all past grudges through this fight. Yet Baki's punches gradually tired him out. He finally leapt up and sat on his father's head, wanting to return to childhood moments beside him. Yujiro compensated in his own way, strolling around to create memories, astonishing all witnesses, seeing their bond mend so quickly. Yujiro urged Baki to attack with all his strength, and Baki obeyed, striking continuously. It seemed the fight might end soon, but Yujiro clapped both hands hard onto Baki's head, leaving Baki unable to hear anything. Yet he taught him a lesson about fists, so they could exchange decisive blows. A merciless duel, with no running, punching until one collapsed. Everyone watching stood in awe. As media recorded the historic moment, Yujiro spread his arms, letting Baki punch until satisfied. But once that wish was fulfilled, Yujiro embraced him tightly, mirroring what he had once done to Baki's mother. Leaving Baki to endure, he collapsed just like she once had. His body nearly shattered, bones fractured throughout, his injuries reaching critical levels. Yujiro then turned and walked away, as their battle had concluded, earning admiration from all around, reinforcing his title as the strongest in the world. Yet surprisingly, Baki still rose to attack again. Though his body failed, his spirit remained. It became a battle of souls, understood only by those within it. Yujiro acknowledged Baki's effort, and honored his promise before the fans, cooking him a humble imaginary meal, inviting his beloved son to dine, a meal only they could perceive. As Baki tasted the hot soup, unexpectedly, he criticized the dish afterward, flipping the table to challenge Yujiro. This shocked all witnesses, thinking Baki had a death wish again. Yet Yujiro did not grow angry, instead accepting defeat, declaring to everyone that Baki had won the fight. There was only one person in the world who defeated him, and that person was Baki Hanma. The fans roared endlessly, as the strongest man accepted loss. But Baki heard none of it. Unable to perceive the world around him, he bowed his head and conceded to his father. For while a fight has winners and losers, both father and son had already won the hearts of all who watched. Early in the morning, Baki began his training. He decided to run downhill, because running uphill wasn't interesting at all. Then Baki was ready to dash down at incredible speed. He moved his arms and legs even faster than free fall. The only way not to fall was to run as fast as possible. But then a yawn came over him again. Even though Baki had predicted it, he was still bored because nothing was exciting. Meanwhile, a match between two fighters was about to begin. Atlas was bored of being called the strongest regardless of weight class. 7 years had passed since he became the champion. He had won far too many fights. So when the match started, Atlas didn't even feel like fighting. His opponent rushed forward to attack. Atlas had already grown tired of this sport, because he didn't want to be the best. He wanted to be called the strongest. The referee stepped in and stopped the match. The victory belonged to Atlas very easily. During the post-fight interview, people didn't understand why Atlas had come to Japan. The simple reason was that someone here was acknowledged by everyone as the strongest. After that, he went to meet Tokugawa. He had watched the fight between Baki and Yujiro. That was the first time Atlas had seen the human body move so beautifully. Knowing that Tokugawa was supporting Hanma Baki, Tokugawa immediately understood that Atlas wanted to defeat him. Of course, Atlas had crossed the Pacific Ocean to confirm that himself. Tokugawa mentioned that the match would have no protective rules. Atlas naturally wanted to try a fight like that. In each match he earned 400 million Japanese yen. But for this match, he wouldn't take any money. Tokugawa asked about Atlas's current physical condition. Atlas confidently said he could fight tonight if necessary. Hearing that, Tokugawa immediately decided the fight would happen tonight. Atlas was a bit surprised because the schedule was so sudden. Tokugawa said that Baki was always free and ready anyway. Then a call to Baki was made immediately. The match was scheduled for tonight. Atlas was eager to see the strongest man walk out from the door. And then Baki appeared. Atlas couldn't believe the strongest man was just a kid. It was indeed the same face from the video. But Baki himself was much smaller. Only about half the size of Atlas. Looking at the scars on Baki's body, Atlas admitted he was clearly a seasoned warrior. Atlas felt like a monster was standing in front of him. He began to feel pressure from Baki. Only when the referee called did he snap out of his fear. The rules were announced once again. Just don't use weapons. Both fighters got into position. The crowd in the stands loudly chanted Atlas's name. This made Atlas feel very confident. He believed he could defeat Baki easily. He remembered his fight with Manny Pacquiao. Because the difference in weight is a wall that no legend can overcome. The match officially began. Atlas was confident he would handle Baki. But when he looked at him he felt Baki was bored. Atlas attacked first with a kick. Then he threw a powerful straight punch. But Baki easily dodged both attacks. Immediately after that, Baki grabbed Atlas. There was no way for Atlas to escape. And Baki spun him around like a top. The outcome was decided instantly. Baki even showed mercy to his opponent by holding back a yawn. Atlas admitted that Baki was truly a good person. The Prime Minister was taken somewhere by Tokugawa. Here, Hitoshi, the team leader, politely greeted the Prime Minister. Everything had already begun, and there was no turning back. The three of them started moving down to a point 366 meters underground. The Prime Minister didn't know what was happening. After moving for a while, they finally arrived. The Prime Minister couldn't believe there was a place like this under Skytree Tower. It was a massive secret base. And he wanted to know more about it. This was Tokugawa's creation. Here, he had created a human being. Then the Prime Minister was led to that place. A huge human figure was inside a large container. Tokugawa said the Prime Minister would also recognize him. A man from the distant region of Kumamoto. He was Miyamoto Musashi. And this was the project to awaken him. Dr. Honer was the one in charge of this project. They had successfully obtained soft tissue and protein from Musashi's bones. The Prime Minister objected because the international community strictly forbids human cloning. But at this point, everything was already close to completion. Years ago, Dr. Honer discovered something humanity had never imagined. He split open the fossils of dinosaurs. He firmly believed the most important part was hidden inside. And his prediction far exceeded expectations. Soft tissue and blood vessels were still preserved inside those fossils. He began analyzing them and discovered amino acids very similar to those of birds. Therefore, isolating genes and DNA was only a matter of time. He was confident that creating cloned dinosaurs would no longer be a distant dream. But when he announced the project, it was met with extremely fierce opposition. Later, someone came to meet Dr. Honer with a huge amount of money. The deal between the two sides was completed. And of course, it was Tokugawa who wanted him to take charge of his project. Tokugawa had stolen Musashi's remains from his grave. He was the most famous swordsman in Japanese history. A symbol of absolute strength. Dr. Honer was stunned when he arrived at Tokugawa's laboratory facility. The scale and level of technology were beyond Honer's imagination. Musashi's remains had already been prepared. The tower built above was merely a disguise. Its height was based on Musashi's name. Its slightly twisted shape symbolized the spiral structure of DNA. Dr. Honer was so excited that he didn't even require payment for the project. He was determined to bring Musashi back to the modern world, even if it meant defying God. Baki had just finished his daily training at home. Suddenly, he felt a massive rhythm. He didn't know whose it was. A very powerful heartbeat was echoing. Baki felt it was unlike anyone else. Unlike anyone he had ever known. Musashi's spinal cord was extracted. And it resembled that of a cat more than a human. Both Dr. Honer and Hitoshi were amazed by its shape. This was the skeleton of a samurai. Because of his intense training, it had deformed into that form. Dr. Honer separated a sample of the bone. Even without a microscope, the arteries were visible to the naked eye. Dr. Honer was extremely excited, while Baki kept training, because only movement could heal everything for him. But then another yawn came over him. Baki was still waiting for that mysterious sound. He was certain it would end his boredom. At the Shishikai dojo, Katsumi was exchanging martial arts techniques with Shibukawa. Both of them were delighted by each other's talent. Shibukawa admitted that his student was gradually reaching perfection. He was confident Katsumi could become his successor. After witnessing the fight between Baki and his father, Katsumi had been feeling uneasy. Now he wanted to increase the intensity of his training even more. Shibukawa said everyone felt the same way. Dopo had begun training underwater. Motobi had gone to the mountains to train. Shinogi was smashing punching bags every day. Kureha had even neglected his work to focus entirely on training. Jack was using more and more drugs. Retsu in America was probably training with great determination as well. Oliva was doing the hardest labor inside the prison. Only Hanayama had not changed at all. Katsumi asked his master how he felt. Shibukawa told him that after training in martial arts for a long time, strange abilities could appear, a kind of instinct that senses danger before it happens. Therefore, Shibukawa believed everyone was sensing the same thing. The experiment to revive Musashi was still in progress. A healthy unfertilized egg had been prepared. It would receive the donor's nucleus. And of course, the donor was Musashi himself. Hitoshi confirmed that after 28 days they would see the embryo of Miyamoto Musashi. Tokugawa was surprised that things were moving so quickly. Because this was the most advanced cloning laboratory in the world, Hitoshi insisted that nothing was impossible here. Then the implantation process began. The cloned embryo nucleus was inserted into the egg. The fertilization process was officially complete. Meanwhile, Baki continued fighting in arena matches. He was still searching for the one with that mysterious heartbeat. Baki easily won another fight. Tokugawa hoped Baki would wait just one more month. Surely his bored yawning would stop. Musashi had now reached 11 months and 10 days of development. Kureha kept training non-stop. But like Baki, he was also extremely bored. Dopo pushed himself hard training underwater. Yet he still felt bored. Jack also tried to make his body grow even bigger. Yet he kept yawning again and again without stopping. Musashi had now reached the age of 32 years and 6 months. All of his vital indicators were normal at this point. It was finally time for him to be born into the outside world. And just like that, he was brought out. This was the strongest swordsman in history. Musashi in flesh and blood. Tokugawa felt that the title, the strongest, was meant for this man. Hanayama was extremely bored at his bar. Even though someone had come to pick a fight the day before, he had only yawned and dealt with everything easily. After that, Hanayama went to see Tokugawa. He asked for permission to fight Yuhiro. But challenging Yuhiro could hardly even be called a match. Tokugawa didn't understand why Hanayama wanted that. He guessed Hanayama was extremely bored. Thinking back 2 years earlier, during their confrontation at the arcade in Tokyo, Hanayama had already received a psychological blow that would last a lifetime. So there was no reason for a rematch. Tokugawa felt very grateful toward Hanayama. At that moment, he also wanted to call Yuhiro back to Japan. Because the name Hanayama alone was enough to make an exciting fight happen. Meanwhile, all of Musashi's vital signs were still completely normal. But 81 hours had passed since his birth and he still hadn't awakened. All indicators were monitored 24 hours a day. Except for one thing. His brainwaves showed no response. The data looked perfect, but now it meant nothing. Dr. Honer asked everyone to help this helpless paleontologist. A fierce debate immediately broke out. Tokugawa was furious because everything had been perfected. Yet something crucial was still missing. He asked everyone to listen to his opinion. New data, old data, and accumulated data. He knew there were fields that scientists could not reach. He explained that his older sister worked as a spirit medium. In other words, she was a spiritualist. Everyone wondered why Tokugawa was asking for their help with this. He could tell that everyone was doubting the idea. Tokugawa admitted his sister sounded 100 times more suspicious than that. Tokugawa's sister was still giving spiritual readings to people. Many people lined up waiting for their turn. But after hearing her pleas, they couldn't stop laughing. Yet afterward, her words were convincing enough to make people believe. Next came a man who wanted to summon the spirit of his father who had died 2 years ago. She began her ritual and declared that his father was not dead. She even called out the man's name. Takashi. She continued to lecture him in the exact way a father scolds his son. And then Takashi became convinced that his father was still alive. Everyone around them was shocked that everything she said was correct. That evening, when Takashi returned home, His father explained that he had fainted at work at that exact time. During that moment, he had dreamed that he scolded his son. He had vented all his frustration about his son's lifestyle. Everything matched perfectly with what had happened earlier. Because of that, people believed there was no spirit that Sabuko could not summon. As for Hanayama, he finally met Yuhiro right on the street. It was an honor that Yuhiro personally came all the way there. Tokugawa was extremely excited that both men wanted to fight. He wanted them to start fighting right away without holding back. Meanwhile, Sabuko had arrived where Musashi was. She examined everything and admitted that many things were still missing. Most importantly, the soul was still absent. With this ritual object, the spirit would descend in about 5 minutes. A scientist stepped forward to speak with Honor. Because how could they possibly accept something like magic charms? Everything they were doing here was called science. Therefore, this was more insulting to science than anything else. He said that either he, Honor, or Sabuko had to leave this place. Sabuko then began chanting her spell. She summoned the spirit of one of the scientist's relatives. She even directly called out his name, Kenichi. Sabuko continued lecturing Kenichi. He still didn't believe it and thought she was putting on a show. But after listening to her talk for a moment, Kenichi realized she was using a phrase that his grandfather always said. The more Sabuko spoke, the more she revealed details from Kenichi's past. Because some things were known only to Kenichi and his grandfather. The image of his grandfather even appeared before him. This time, Kenichi no longer opposed it. He even advised Dr. Honor to give it a try. Meanwhile, the fight between Yuhiro and Hanayama had not yet begun. The two decided to take a walk and talk for a bit. Ever since the fight with Baki, Yuhiro had become famous all over the world. Now anyone could recognize him. After chatting for a while, Hanayama realized that he had finally stopped yawning. He told Yuhiro that he had been extremely bored for the past year. Ever since watching the fight between Yuhiro and his son, everything he heard or saw felt meaningless. Hanayama thought Yuhiro was very humble for calling it just a normal family matter. Yuhiro stated that the strength between him and his son was simply too great. So the people around them found it fascinating and spread the story on their own. Yuhiro asked again what someone as bored as Hanayama really wanted to do. Hanayama apologized for being disrespectful. Clearly, the two of them had not met just to talk. As their fight was about to begin, someone came asking Yuhiro for an autograph. With just one finger, Yuhiro frightened the man instantly. Because he was currently busy with a fight, Hanayama and Yuhiro continued walking and talking. The person asking for the autograph was still very happy. Soon, their conversation finally came to an end. They had reached a suitable place. Hanayama decided he would not hold back anymore. He launched the first attack on Yuhiro. A straight punch aimed directly at Yuhiro's face. Yuhiro took the punch head-on. But he only showed an incredibly terrifying smile. Watching them, Tokugawa felt the two had completely synchronized with each other. Hanayama attacked again. Yuhiro had been standing still the whole time, simply dodging the blows. Strike after strike failed to hit the target. People watching had no idea what Hanayama was doing. Yuhiro began mocking him. Hanayama threw another punch. This time Yuhiro made it clear things would not be easy. Meanwhile, Sabuko began the spirit summoning ritual. She knew Musashi's childhood name was Takezo. If Takezo had lived peacefully without ever killing anyone, his face would have looked like this. She said his true face was extraordinary. Then she began her prayer. It was the same chant she always used. The scientists watched without daring to say a single word. Sabuko gradually synchronized with Musashi's spirit. Her posture and gaze began to resemble his. Tokugawa had just arrived as well. He told everyone to simply focus and watch. Sabuko continued the ritual. Tokugawa didn't want to watch too closely because he had seen this many times before. At that moment, the data and indicators still showed no changes. Suddenly, Sabuko kissed Musashi's body. Kenichi was furious and demanded to know what she was doing. Tokugawa ordered everyone to stay silent and not interfere. Until everything was finished, no one was allowed to stop her. Suddenly, Musashi's brainwaves began to move. Scars started appearing on his body. His face suddenly changed. His body began reacting violently. Sabuko's kiss finally ended. The moment Musashi woke up, he grabbed Sabuko. Then he threw her straight into the scientists. After that, he began questioning them. Musashi's soul and body had officially become one. He demanded honest answers from everyone. He promised he would not take anyone's life. The questioning continued for 2 full hours. Musashi eventually learned everything. Tokugawa wanted him to fight. He had already prepared suitable clothing for Musashi. Musashi put the clothes on. Then he asked who his opponent would be. Meanwhile, Baki was training at home and realized his yawning had stopped. He felt that strange heartbeat speeding up again. It had begun to move. Baki believed the day he would meet the owner of that heartbeat was near. Whether it was a death row inmate or a primitive man didn't matter. Whoever appeared would not surprise him anymore. Musashi was extremely excited to ride in a car. But he was also a bit frightened because he had not adapted to it yet. He had already learned that this was Japan 400 years after his era. Even though he knew things had changed, the shock hit him like an avalanche. Tokugawa then took him walking through the streets. Everything around him amazed him. Everything in his eyes was completely different from his time. The difference was truly enormous. He had many questions but didn't know where to begin. He could clearly feel the terrifying evolution of this world. It seemed he had descended into an extraordinary place. Musashi wanted to find a place where he truly belonged. Tokugawa had already prepared everything. Then Musashi was taken to Tokugawa's underground arena. When he arrived, Musashi felt at ease, because this was exactly the place he belonged. And then his first opponent appeared. His name was Sabu Kiyochiro. He was known as the unmatched swordsman of modern Japan. He greeted Tokugawa briefly because they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The moment Sabu saw Musashi, he reacted immediately. It felt as if he had just been cut in half. Tokugawa revealed that Sabu also had the nickname, Sabu the Butcher. Of course, he could not be compared to Musashi. Sabu had cut down more than 20 people. In Japan and even the world, no one had cut down more people than him. Sabu wondered who the man in front of him really was. Tokugawa promised he would explain everything after the fight. Suddenly, Sabu apologized because he could not keep his promise. He said he could not accept this duel. Even though he was old, he could not throw his life away. Tokugawa wondered what exactly Sabu had sensed. Sabu said that since earlier, he had already been cut 7 times by the man in front of him. Tokugawa did not understand what the two were talking about. The first cut was an X-shaped slash, a vertical strike from the top of the head down the body. The second was a thrust straight through the throat. The third was a diagonal slash. The fourth split the body horizontally. The fifth cut through the torso. The sixth sliced the entire body. And the seventh and final strike was across the chest. Musashi thanked him because his opponent had not resisted. So he accidentally went too far. Sabu thought it was ridiculous because he had used all his strength. Even if it was only in his mind, he had done everything he could. Only then did Tokugawa realize that the battle had already happened between them. The result was clearly 7-0. Tokugawa could not understand how Musashi had cut him without even having a sword. Sabu still wondered who the man before him truly was. For Musashi, having a real sword made no difference. He borrowed Sabu's sword. Musashi began testing the blade. He said it felt very nostalgic. Then he borrowed Sabu's second sword as well. Tokugawa wanted to see Musashi's swordsmanship. Of course, Sabu also wanted to see it. Musashi joked that since only the two of them were there, he had no one to demonstrate it on. But he was only joking. Musashi said Sabu's 2 swords were beautiful but not meant for cutting people. With just one swing, both swords shattered into pieces. Sabu had no idea what Musashi had just done. Musashi stated that these were not real swords. If they could not withstand a single swing, they could never cut anyone. Sabu demanded to know who the man before him was. In over 60 years of life, he had never heard of a sword breaking just from being swung. Musashi introduced himself and said it was an honor to meet Sabu. At that moment, Sabu understood everything. Musashi declared that with any weapon or even bare hands, he would defeat the strong. Musashi decided he would defeat the strongest person in this country. Hearing this, Tokugawa trembled uncontrollably. The next day, Tokugawa told Baki about the fight between the strongest creature on Earth and Japan's #1 fighter. Baki listened with great excitement. He admitted Hanayama was truly amazing. because he understood very well what kind of person his father was. Baki wanted to hear the details of the fight. The fight happened exactly as described. At that moment, Yujiro countered Hanayama's punch with a straight punch to the face. Then Hanayama was thrown straight into a nearby bookstore. Even though it was a small place, he was safe and not seriously injured. Hanayama was even smiling brightly. Baki asked Tokugawa who the person in the next room was. The room right beside them. Baki wanted to know exactly who that person was. Tokugawa said there were many people working here, so someone in the next room was normal. Baki felt Tokugawa was underestimating him. After all, he was Yuhiro's son. He could clearly sense what kind of person was in that room. Then Baki joked that he actually felt nothing. After all, this wasn't a historical fantasy movie. Suddenly, someone appeared behind him. Baki immediately attacked. For a moment, he felt as if his leg had been cut off. But when he looked again, it was still intact. Musashi finally revealed himself. In that instant, the two of them saw strange visions. One saw a banquet stretching to the horizon. The other saw a massive fist-shaped cloud. Musashi praised Baki for his reaction. Tokugawa asked Baki to describe what he felt about the man in front of him. Baki said he was about to say something crazy. He said the man in front of him was Musashi, a samurai from the Warring States era revived in the 21st century. Tokugawa was shocked that Baki already knew. Baki admitted he didn't know how it happened, but the reality in front of him could not be denied. Seeing Tokugawa's reaction confirmed he was right. Musashi asked Baki to step outside. He wanted them to fight right there. The two would fight barehanded. Baki said it obviously had to be bare hands. As soon as he finished speaking, Musashi summoned an invisible sword. Baki could see that sword. Musashi declared that he was the unrivaled warrior under heaven. Baki admitted that Musashi was truly terrifying. Musashi said that when someone reached his level, his own body became the blade. He asked Baki whether fighting barehanded like this would be fine. Baki did not expect such a kind of power to exist. He accepted the challenge to fight Musashi. Tokugawa felt it would be a waste if the two fought right there. Baki said he was ready since Musashi was the one who invited him outside. Musashi asked about Baki's identity. Tokugawa then asked Musashi what he thought about Baki. Musashi looked him over and said he was decent. As soon as he finished speaking, Baki attacked first, but Musashi immediately grabbed his leg. He guessed Baki came from Ryukyu, because fighters from there often used many kicking techniques. Baki attacked again but still failed. Musashi said he might have to teach Baki a lesson. Since this was a fight, he wondered if Baki could handle it. With one throw, Musashi slammed Baki straight to the ground. Baki immediately lost consciousness. Musashi commented that he was only slightly better than a normal sword. After a while, Baki finally woke up. He realized that he had lost. After sitting and thinking for a long time, Baki realized something. He had just fought a legendary swordsman from history. Baki admitted the whole situation was insane. He truly wanted to meet Musashi again. Baki immediately went outside. Tokugawa asked Baki if he wanted to watch Musashi train. Musashi began swinging bamboo sticks. His grip was strange, holding each stick with just one finger. With a single swing, the bamboo shattered into many pieces. One after another, the bamboo sticks were crushed. Baki wondered what the point of this training was. Musashi said he had never really thought about it. Training was simply natural for a swordsman. Baki said the simple goal was to win. Baki believed fighting him would be better than training. Musashi said Baki had already died, because Baki had been unconscious for about 30 minutes. Musashi said he could have killed him many times during that time. Baki felt embarrassed about asking for a rematch. Musashi asked if Baki wanted to try swinging the bamboo. He wanted to see it. Baki suddenly kicked and snapped the bamboo in half. Musashi praised him and said that was well done. Cutting something clean in half was not easy. Musashi admitted Baki had become much faster than before. Tokugawa once again declared that Baki was the strongest young man in the world. But to Musashi, that still did not make him a true warrior. Musashi said he wanted to go outside again. He wanted to see more of the outside world. Tokugawa worried that letting him go alone would definitely cause trouble. Baki also said Musashi could not just go outside. Even though Musashi could have killed him many times, He could not deliver the finishing blow. Baki suddenly launched a lightning-fast attack. The speed was even faster than light. In the past, Baki's father had taught him this technique. Anyone would be hit by this move. The technique was called the Ultimate Super-Level Galaxy Phantom Strike. It was simply a jab. Yujiro once demonstrated the move in front of Baki. Yujiro threw a strike right in front of Baki. He said it would break straight through head-on without any conditions. Only speed is the core. Yujiro wanted Baki to perform it again. Engrave it deeply again and again. The jab would be the fastest technique in modern martial arts. Musashi took Baki's jab head-on. As a result, he also collapsed to the ground. This strike surprised him quite a bit. Baki stated that 10 seconds had already passed. He couldn't do it many times, but he could at least kill him about 3 times. Musashi also admitted that he had been killed. He himself had died the moment Baki rushed in. Baki didn't expect that he had already read his technique. Musashi admitted that Baki's aura was very strong. Baki realized that Musashi could dodge that jab. But for Musashi, if he couldn't defend against it, he would no longer be a warrior. He wanted to know the effectiveness of it. Baki had struck his jaw rather than hitting his face head-on. His mind began to spin. His body fell into a fatal state. He considered himself truly careless for losing control of himself. Baki considered this matter no joke. Musashi introduced himself once again. Of course, Baki introduced himself in return. Musashi decided he would no longer hold back against Baki. This time he used 2 swords to unleash the Knight in Ichi-Ryu style. Baki wasn't afraid and charged forward to attack. He thought that not continuing the fight would be disrespectful. Musashi had realized everything, the signals from his opponent's brain that even the opponent didn't know. He successfully responded in time to Baki's speed attack. Baki had officially been read like a book. He was also slashed through the body by Musashi. Suffering intense pain, Baki frantically counterattacked Musashi. He knocked Musashi high into the air. Musashi still praised Baki for doing very well, not expecting him to counter from that diagonal slash. Baki had exceeded his expectations. Baki collapsed unconscious again, while Musashi escaped outside. He went out into the streets to learn about modern human civilization. He was watching an advertisement on a giant screen, surprised that the large picture could move. Everything was strange and full of surprises to Musashi. He admitted it was terrifying. The gap between the 2 eras was enormous. In 400 years, humanity had developed tremendously. Everything was created by human hands. Musashi continued strolling through the streets when 2 police officers suddenly approached him to ask questions. Of course, Musashi had no idea what police were. The officers asked where Musashi's shoes were. He said it was due to his own carelessness. Then the officers asked for his name and address. Musashi introduced his name and his address from the 12th year of the Tensho era. The 2 officers thought he was on drugs. They then tried to check Musashi immediately. Without saying much, he knocked both of them unconscious instantly. Baki returned and was still frustrated about the previous battle. He still couldn't believe he had just fought a legendary samurai. Through that battle, Baki truly understood how powerful Musashi was. Baki was very impressed by Musashi's ability to quickly predict others' actions. Because in Musashi's era, one small mistake could cost you your life. The strongest warrior of that era had descended into this era. Baki admitted that it was truly fortunate. Pickle was a miracle from the primitive past. And now they had the strongest warrior from the Warring States era. Baki understood why this was happening. Because this was the era that would decide who would be the strongest in human history. 2 other police officers came to restrain Musashi. He knocked both of them unconscious instantly as well. Meanwhile, Baki was still extremely excited. Because at this moment, the essence of martial arts was flowing through Musashi's body. Baki was determined to catch up to him, so he had to adjust his fighting style. Returning home, he began training to create his own unique fighting style. Baki frantically plunged into thought and searched for new techniques. Baki once again imagined the image of Musashi, knowing clearly that he couldn't defeat him right now. The police were gathering forces to capture Musashi at all costs. News about the mysterious man who had defeated many police officers had already spread widely. Wherever he went, police officers were lying unconscious everywhere. The media reported that the man called himself the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. Many great martial artists reacted strongly to the news. Everyone sensed that Musashi was extremely powerful. They all hoped to fight him one day. Musashi was now considered a criminal and was heavily monitored. 2 undercover officers approached him again. Of course, Musashi immediately noticed them, but he suddenly jumped into a mansion. The officers realized it was Tokugawa's residence. The police believed this could become a huge problem. They reported the situation to Tokugawa. Musashi was now considered a suspect in an emergency operation. He was classified as a dangerous individual. Tokugawa contacted Police Director Utsumi. He told them to leave Musashi alone and not interfere. This was Tokugawa's direct order. Mishiro promised to deliver the order completely. Dopo also arrived at the mansion. Of course, he came to ask about the man rumored to be the strongest. He learned that Musashi was completely different from any martial arts he knew. Because Musashi used the sword, Dopo was extremely excited and wanted to meet him. As soon as he finished speaking, Musashi appeared. Musashi said he was very hungry. He apologized to Dopo for the rudeness. Tokugawa asked Musashi what he thought of Dopo. Musashi said if it was this man, a duel before dinner would be fine. Tokugawa was surprised that Musashi treated the martial god Dopo so casually. Dopo was very happy and willing to fight Musashi in any form. Everything seemed as if it had already been arranged. Musashi suddenly said he had been restrained. Since entering the room, he had tried to draw his sword 3 times. But each time his head was suppressed. Tokugawa suggested fighting after dinner might be better. Musashi said it was unnecessary. The 2 of them then moved to a dojo used by servants for practice. Tokugawa wanted to properly introduce Dopo to Musashi. He had already prepared tools to make the explanation easier. Dopo also knew what he needed to do. Then Dopo began to demonstrate his techniques. One by one, he performed feats such as chopping bricks, kicking wooden posts, and smashing glass bottles. Musashi saw these demonstrations as mere dancing rather than real martial arts. Those words sounded like a direct challenge to Dopo. The 2 of them prepared to fight each other. As Dopo tried to attack with a headbutt, Musashi immediately read the move and toyed with him. Musashi apologized for provoking Dopo with his earlier words. He admitted that Dopo's skills were extremely sharp and could finish an opponent in an instant. Dopo felt embarrassed that his sudden headbutt had been predicted. But touching that bald head came with a price. And both men understood each other's intent. Musashi summoned 2 invisible swords again. Dopo could see them and tried to dodge because he knew he was being threatened by the range of a sword that did not exist. Musashi rushed forward and stabbed straight at Dopo. Dopo managed to evade that thrust. But he could not avoid the second invisible sword. As a result, he took the slash directly. Musashi laughed and said Dopo had only been dancing. He then threw a straight punch toward his opponent's face. Dopo struggled to keep himself from falling to the floor. Then he finally became serious with his martial arts stance. Musashi remained calm and continued observing his opponent. He asked Dopo if he realized he had already been cut. Of course, Dopo clearly felt it, but to Dopo, it was only an imaginary slash. He said Musashi's biggest mistake was standing here without a real sword. Musashi agreed that perhaps he needed a real sword to satisfy Dopo. Tokugawa immediately brought out the national treasure Kunitora. It was a treasured family sword. Musashi examined the blade carefully. He admitted it was a fine sword. Then he asked Dopo to wait for a moment. Tokugawa confirmed to Dopo that this man was the real Musashi and not an imposter. Dopo said that did not matter to him. He believed Musashi was real, which was why he allowed him to hold the sword. Tokugawa became worried because this was a real sword, not a wooden stick. Dopo showed no fear. Because in karate the entire body is a weapon. Musashi found that statement amusing. He continued throwing insulting remarks toward Dopo. As soon as he finished speaking, the battle between them began instantly. Dopo took Musashi's strike directly. Fortunately, Musashi did not actually slash. He explained that he had only touched Dopo and pressed the blade down. That was how he had handled him. Musashi then picked up a piece of wood and cut it in half. He said that was what a real slash looked like. Suddenly, blood began flowing from Musashi's face. He realized he needed to reflect on himself. It was because he had dared to underestimate Dopo. Now he admitted that Dopo's limbs were like a net of razor-sharp blades. Dopo remained silent and said nothing. He knew he had already lost. After that, Dopo learned the full truth about Musashi. In their battle, Dopo had lost in every aspect. It was a complete defeat. Yet strangely satisfying. Dopo had been defeated by Japan's unmatched and perfectly sharp sword. Musashi had won without leaving a single wound. That kind of mercy made Dopo feel uncomfortable. To him, it hurt even more than being slashed. Dopo thanked Tokugawa once again, even though he had read the martial texts and memorized them. In that moment he realized he had understood nothing. Tokugawa asked Dopo about his future plans. Dopo decided he would go into seclusion for a while. After Retsu defeated the boxing champion Bolt, he received the championship belt from Kaiser. At that moment, whether people recognized it or not no longer mattered to Retsu. From that point on, boxer Retsu officially ended his career. There would be no title defense or anything like that. He decided to return to Japan. He wanted to fight a worthy opponent with his Chinese kung fu. Later, Retsu heard about Dopo's defeat. He could not believe that a master like Dopo had lost so badly. Katsumi said Dopo had accepted the defeat wholeheartedly without any resentment. Katsumi himself also wanted to fight Musashi. Retsu asked what kind of weapon the opponent used. Katsumi found it surprising that a karate and Chinese kung fu master would fear an opponent. Retsu also watched the video of Musashi easily defeating the police officers. Therefore, Retsu advised Katsumi that if he truly wanted to fight Musashi, he should not hesitate to use a weapon. Musashi began using a lighter. He found this small tool incredibly fascinating. After that, he mixed straw charcoal with horse fat. He used that mixture to apply ointment to the wound on his face. Tokugawa came to see him again. Musashi was then brought to the underground arena to meet Retsu. Tokugawa explained that the rules of this arena allowed the use of weapons. Musashi realized that Retsu himself had requested that rule. Retsu said he did it for Musashi's sake. He knew that even without a sword, Musashi was still a powerful opponent. But Musashi was an unmatched swordsman. So for someone who practiced kung fu like Retsu, winning without swords would be meaningless. Musashi was surprised that Retsu even believed he could win in hand-to-hand combat. Of course, Retsu had his doubts about that as well. But the key point of the match lay there. Defeating Musashi would only have meaning if swords were involved. Musashi began releasing a terrifying killing intent. Retsu immediately launched his attack. Because Retsu's leg was prosthetic, Musashi managed to break it. But then Musashi took a full kick directly to the face. Musashi collapsed onto the arena floor. Tokugawa could not understand why Retsu had attacked first. Retsu explained that he sensed a brutal killing intent and had no choice but to strike. He was also grateful for his prosthetic leg that helped him. Retsu then left and scheduled a rematch 3 days later. Musashi admitted that Retsu was a likable person. Later, Motobi came to see Tokugawa. He said he did not need any explanation because he already knew everything was true. Motobi also knew that Retsu and Musashi were preparing to fight each other. He believed that this match was truly worth watching, because he clearly understood what kind of fighter Retsu was, and what kind of opponent Musashi was. Tokugawa guessed that Motobi probably wanted to fight as well. Motobi replied that he did want to. But not exactly to fight, he wanted to protect someone. Tokugawa asked who he wanted to protect. Motobi knew Musashi was praised as a master swordsman. But that did not mean he only knew how to use a sword. Samurai of that era were far from weak. Musashi could use many different kinds of weapons. On top of that, he was skilled in many forms of martial arts. Motobi said he himself was somewhat similar. Even Yujiro could not master so many different things. Therefore, aside from him, no one else could protect their allies from Musashi. Meanwhile, Retsu returned to his training. He began practicing with various weapons combined together. Kaku admitted that Retsu's weapon skills had become much sharper than before. After that, Retsu continued training his martial arts. Retsu successfully mastered Shaori, turning himself into a thick wall capable of deflecting ordinary attacks. At the same time, Retsu's body became as light as a feather. Everything in Retsu's body became flexible and delicate. His entire body felt as thin and light as paper. Finally, he reached the state of being as light as a feather. When reaching that feather state, the wall-like defense would disappear. That was the most perfect form of Shaori. Even if an opponent used a sword, it would not be able to harm him. After that, Kaku continued teaching Chinese sword techniques to his students. While teaching, he clearly explained the core principles of traditional Chinese martial arts passed down through generations. Eventually, Retsu began sparring with Kaku. Kaku wanted Retsu to flow naturally with the movement of the sword. If he could do that, even Musashi would not be able to cut him. Meanwhile, Musashi also began training. He practiced by slashing leaves that were falling from the wind. With just 2 slashes, a leaf was cut into 4 pieces. Retsu's training progressed extremely well. He successfully avoided being cut by Kaku. Kaku praised him, saying that by the 4th attempt he had already become as light as a feather. Everything was now ready for the final battle. Kaku acknowledged Retsu once again. Suddenly Motobi arrived. He mocked them, saying these childish tricks could never stand against Musashi. He said it was truly laughable. Meanwhile, Musashi easily sliced a feather in half. Tokugawa was shocked that Musashi could draw such a long and heavy sword so easily. It was so fast that the human eye could barely see it. Musashi explained that a sword must be drawn from the hips. The slash also came from the hips in one decisive motion. Meanwhile, Kaku disagreed with Motobi's opinion. Motobi said that was understandable because Kaku was Chinese and did not understand the Warring States era of Japan. In that era, when 2 men faced each other, one of them had to die. That was completely different from modern martial arts. Even if it was rough and imperfect, fighting still had to follow the traditional way. Retsu understood this and asked Motobi to guide him. However, Motobi told Retsu to withdraw from the fight, because even unarmed fighters could not defeat Musashi, let alone when he was holding a sword. Retsu refused to accept the humiliation. Motobi stated that Musashi could cut through anything, so if Retsu couldn't even get past him, he shouldn't think about going any further. Retsu understood that he had to defeat Motobi first if he wanted to continue. The 2 of them immediately launched their attacks. Motobi locked Retsu's arm with his neck, but Retsu managed to break free. Only then did Retsu realize his elbow had almost been completely crushed. Motobi said he couldn't afford to hold back, because that would still be better than being cut down. Retsu continued to attack aggressively. Motobi took the hit but instantly counterattacked. However, Retsu successfully neutralized all of his opponent's techniques. Watching from the side, Katsumi admitted that both fighters were on an entirely different level. Motobi stood up, ready to do something, but before he could act, Kaku knocked him unconscious. Kaku didn't want his student to be injured before the night of battle. He told Retsu to go and rest. Then a new day began. The underground arena beneath Tokyo Dome once again fell into chaos. Today was completely different from previous fights. Everyone had come here to witness a legendary battle. Retsu mentally prepared himself to step into the arena. Baki also came to support Retsu. Baki understood that today's match perfectly suited Retsu's style. He admitted that it was very fair. Since the opponent was a samurai, using weapons made the fight truly fair. Baki even felt a little jealous about it. Soon it was time for the match. Both Retsu and Musashi were ready. The 2 prepared themselves for a battle to the death. The crowd erupted in cheers when the real Musashi stepped into the arena. Everyone admitted he looked incredibly cool. Retsu also made his entrance. The 2 faced each other once again. In the center of the arena, many weapons had already been prepared. Because this match followed special rules, all weapons were allowed. The only thing forbidden was firearms. Both fighters returned to their positions. Then the life and death battle officially began with the sound of the drum. The entire audience fell silent in intense focus. Because the upcoming battle was not simply about winning or losing. Musashi wanted to finish this fight quickly and cleanly. Retsu removed his shirt, revealing countless throwing knives hidden underneath. He immediately grabbed one and threw it straight at Musashi. Musashi easily dodged it, even though the speed was fast. Musashi still read the attack perfectly. Retsu kept throwing knives one after another. But Musashi avoided and countered every single one. Then came another wave of knives. Musashi handled them all effortlessly. When the final knife arrived, He sliced it clean in half with his sword. The opening of this life or death battle left the spectators completely stunned. Everyone could only gasp in disbelief. Because the legendary unmatched swordsman Musashi was truly standing before them. Retsu had run out of throwing knives. He immediately removed his shirt completely. Then he used the shirt itself as a weapon. This time he slammed the shirt onto the ground, launching sand and debris toward Musashi. Waves of sand blasted toward him again and again. Musashi stood still and endured the attack. Even when sand struck his eyes, he showed no openings at all. He commented that Retsu was acting like a child, first throwing knives, then throwing sand and gravel. He mocked Retsu for not daring to close the distance and fight. Musashi continued provoking him. This time Retsu threw the shirt directly at Musashi. Musashi wondered what trick Retsu was planning. He assumed there was no strategy left. The moment he sliced the shirt in half, Musashi was struck by Retsu's attack. Retsu was thrilled that he had finally landed a hit. Musashi collapsed completely. However, he stood up immediately even though blood was running down his face. Retsu continued attacking with a 9-section whip. All this time he had maintained a safe distance from Musashi. Musashi carefully analyzed his opponent's technique. Then he suddenly laughed. After that, he unexpectedly dropped his sword. Retsu immediately continued his attack. But this time it wasn't so easy anymore. Musashi effortlessly dodged the strike. Then he grabbed both ends of Retsu's weapon. He successfully seized it for himself. Musashi began testing the weapon by swinging it. He admitted that while it could swing, it wasn't strong enough to take a life. The steel quality was also far too weak. He couldn't believe Retsu intended to defeat him with such a toy. Retsu didn't understand why he couldn't move forward to attack anymore. Even though many opportunities appeared, he couldn't control his own body. Musashi called out to Retsu. He said he would show him how the 9-section whip should really be used. Musashi released a terrifying killing intent. Baki realized Musashi was about to repeat the same move again. Then a powerful swing instantly snapped the weapon apart. Everyone watching could only cry out in disbelief. Kaku was extremely furious, because the weapon he had trained with in his youth was broken so easily with just a single swing. Musashi threw his sword to Retsu and wanted him to draw it and swing it. Since Retsu wanted to fight a samurai, he should at least use a sword. Surprisingly, Retsu used the sword and struck Musashi several times, delivering continuous blows to Musashi's body. Once again, Musashi collapsed onto the arena floor. Retsu admitted that Musashi was as cowardly as the rumors said. Meanwhile, Retsu considered himself a true martial artist. Retsu promised he would not let Musashi get close while he was unarmed. The spectators wanted Retsu to finish Musashi immediately. Musashi insisted that the moment he fell was Retsu's only chance to win. He said it would never happen a second time, and declared that Retsu had already lost. The crowd laughed because Musashi's trick had already been exposed. In history, he had once said the same thing to an opponent. And in that battle, Musashi eventually won. Musashi was surprised that his words had been passed down through generations. Retsu said that the quote had become very famous. Suddenly, Musashi threw the sword toward the pile of weapons in the center of the arena. Then he rushed straight toward Retsu. This time, he wanted to fight Retsu with his bare hands. Retsu reacted immediately. He even used his hair to strike directly at Musashi's eyes. Retsu was determined not to let Musashi get close to him. Suddenly, Musashi grabbed Retsu's prosthetic leg once again. He admitted that the punch to his jaw earlier had been impressive. Retsu could not believe that someone could lift his 100-kilogram body with just one hand. Musashi praised Retsu for turning his hair into a weapon, especially since he could attack at such a close distance. Retsu continued attacking but failed. Musashi grabbed Retsu and swung his entire body like he was swinging a sword. He slammed Retsu painfully onto the arena floor. But surprisingly, Retsu was still able to stand after that attack. Perhaps this was the last bit of pride of Chinese martial arts. Because the outcome had already been decided after Musashi's strike. Retsu had already been defeated. Musashi walked forward while Retsu stood there frozen. Once again, Retsu was struck and snapped back to his senses. He reacted immediately and prepared to continue the fight. He attacked aggressively again, but every punch was predicted by Musashi. Retsu kept attacking with both kicks and punches. However, Musashi read every move, and Retsu's elbow was dislocated. Kaku silently hoped that his student would survive and return. Musashi suddenly picked up a sword. He still considered these weapons nothing more than toys. With just one swing, the blade shattered. He tried another weapon and still said it was only good for kitchen use. Suddenly, Retsu took Baki's fighting stance. Everyone immediately recognized that posture. It was Baki's combat stance. Baki could not believe that Retsu had learned that stance from him. He had no idea what Retsu was planning to do. Musashi walked toward Retsu. At this point, one of Retsu's arms and one of his legs could no longer be used. Musashi released an extremely fierce killing intent. Retsu showed no fear at all. He was ready to receive Musashi's attack, even if it meant being cut in half. Retsu stood still and waited for Musashi to strike. He became furious when Musashi did not draw his sword and attack. He believed Musashi was insulting him. Musashi admitted that Retsu was a true warrior. Retsu suddenly flipped his body and kicked Musashi straight in the face. Everyone admitted that Retsu was truly a genius, because he had managed to knock Musashi down once again. Retsu silently thanked Baki for that fighting stance. The spectators realized that Musashi could not stand up anymore. Everyone wanted Retsu to finish his opponent. Retsu was ready. He launched the final decisive attack. But Musashi would not allow the battle to end like that. All this time, he had only been pretending to be defeated. Musashi suddenly strangled Retsu with a bandage. Then he bound Retsu's arms and legs the same way. Musashi said this was his binding technique. The audience believed Musashi was fighting dirty. Musashi had openly ambushed his opponent, but he claimed it was a legitimate counterattack that exploited Retsu's opening. Kaku realized that everything was already over. Retsu had not been knocked out or cut down. He could still move slightly, but all of his movements had been sealed. For someone who lived for martial arts, this was an outcome that should never happen. It was a defeat even worse than losing. Retsu asked Musashi to cut him down. Musashi did not want Retsu to be so arrogant, because now Retsu did not even have the right to be cut down by someone else. Tears began to fall from Retsu's eyes. Musashi admitted that he had taken quite a beating today. He walked over and picked up his sword. Then he came to Retsu and swung it. The blade next to him was cut cleanly in half. Out of respect, Musashi decided that he would cut Retsu down. The audience could only watch as Musashi became truly serious. And then he delivered the final slash. The bandages wrapped around Retsu's body were completely removed. Retsu immediately counterattacked, but it seemed everything was already too late. Musashi delivered a direct slash toward Retsu. At that moment, Retsu suddenly used the technique of dissipating force. He tried to counterattack, but once again his prosthetic leg was cut off. Retsu immediately retreated backward. Kaku could not believe that the force dissipation technique had been broken. Retsu had taken the full power of Musashi's slash. Luckily, because he used the force dissipation technique, the cut was shallow and saved his life. Retsu still wanted to continue and demanded another strike. He once again stood in a stance that fully revealed his intention. Musashi realized it could no longer even be called a defensive stance. Retsu rushed forward to attack again. Musashi swung his blade, but this time it was blocked by Retsu's punch. Everyone was shocked by this. Even Musashi himself was surprised that Retsu had reached that level. Retsu was extremely excited that he had stopped his opponent's slash. Musashi admitted that Retsu had truly grasped it. In an era without swords, a fist itself could become a sword. This time things were different. Musashi then finished the battle. Retsu received a very deep slash. He finally collapsed. At that moment, he understood what it truly felt like to be cut. Retsu fell to the arena floor. In that instant, he realized his body had been severed apart. He knew that counter-attacking was now impossible. Even standing up was far beyond reach. Retsu's internal organs spilled out of his body. The life and death battle had truly ended. Musashi was officially the winner. The entire arena once again fell into a strange silence. Everyone felt deeply ashamed. Even though they had witnessed a life and death battle, they felt ashamed of themselves. The winner is usually praised and celebrated with many compliments. But for Musashi, nothing like that happened. He simply stood there, still the unmatched warrior under heaven. Retsu's body was later properly wrapped and bandaged. Everyone felt sorrow for Retsu. Tokugawa asked everyone whether he had made a mistake. Kaku said that this battle was Retsu's wish. So there was nothing wrong with it. Everyone mourned for Retsu. Everyone felt deeply saddened by Retsu's passing. After the battle, Tokugawa and Musashi stayed behind to talk together. As expected, it had been an easy match for Musashi. Musashi looked at his injured face and questioned how Tokugawa could call it easy. Tokugawa said he had something he wanted to ask. He wanted to know Musashi's opinion of Retsu. Musashi thought for a moment and said it felt like facing Sekigahara. In that battle in the past, Musashi had killed many enemies by himself. The enemy troops kept coming in greater numbers. Yet he feared none of them. For Musashi, the battle at Sekigahara had been truly fascinating. Tokugawa understood this to mean that Retsu had indeed been a very formidable opponent. Musashi admitted that he had grown fond of him, because Retsu was able to block his slash with a bare fist. Musashi admired that kind of training, the leaps in thinking, and Retsu's tenacity. At the same time, he also feared Retsu. Tokugawa thanked Musashi because those words would comfort Retsu's soul. Tokugawa then asked Musashi to compare the genius swordsman Sasaki with Retsu. Which opponent had been stronger? Tokugawa felt proud that Musashi was seriously comparing the two. He wondered what the answer would be between a master of fists and a master of swords. Unexpectedly, Musashi answered, Funashima Island. He assumed Tokugawa was referring to Sasaki, whom he fought on Funashima Island. Musashi tried to recall that battle. Seeing his reaction, Tokugawa wondered if Sasaki had not been Musashi's strongest opponent. Musashi said Sasaki had only been ordinary. Tokugawa was quite shocked by that. Musashi insisted that Sasaki was nothing special. Tokugawa then asked how Retsu compared. Musashi said if strength were like a great war, how could Retsu possibly be considered ordinary? The three opponents he had fought were all far from ordinary. In the Warring States era, all three would have been famous warriors. Tokugawa was surprised that Musashi said they were only worthy of being remembered. Musashi continued waiting for the next battle. Baki suddenly went to Motobi to learn ancient martial arts. Motobi refused Baki's request. Motobi was disappointed that he had failed to protect Retsu. Because of that, he believed Baki would not be able to do anything either. He wanted to protect everyone from Musashi's demonic power. Baki said he did not need Motobi to protect anyone. The two began arguing and could not reach an understanding. Baki insisted that he did not need anyone to protect him. Motobi reminded him about the recent battle. Retsu's death was a tragic loss for everyone. But as a martial artist, Motobi felt honored to have witnessed the ultimate destination of the path he pursued. He felt a little regretful because no one had yet seen Musashi fight with his full power. Motobi guessed that Musashi wanted to experience as many things as possible. Although Retsu was very strong, he was not the kind of opponent who could make Musashi careless and lose. Therefore, Motobi now believed it was his duty to protect everyone. Baki did not accept this. The two had no choice but to fight each other to settle the matter. Baki rushed in and attacked first. As a result, Motobi disappeared right in front of him. He had already pulled out a dagger and threatened Baki from behind. Baki did not expect that Motobi had even prepared a smoke bomb beforehand. After receiving Baki's message in the morning, Motobi had already predicted things would turn out like this. Motobi then introduced Baki to the ninja smoke bomb. He said this was military strategy. This was real combat. Musashi's fighting style also included things like this. Baki realized that in a real fight, he would have already been killed. Motobi explained everything so Baki could understand. He wanted Baki to get used to unexpected situations like this. Motobi claimed that he alone had mastered this style of combat. Therefore, he said this battle was his responsibility. Meanwhile, Musashi was suddenly arrested by the police. Tokugawa did not understand what was happening. Utsumi explained that there was an arrest warrant because Musashi was suspected of murder. There were many witnesses. At the police headquarters, many people testified that Musashi had killed numerous individuals with a sword. Utsumi asked Tokugawa to let him handle the matter. He promised that Musashi would not be treated unfairly. Musashi easily removed the handcuffs. He also promised that he would return soon. Outside, a large number of police officers had gathered. Musashi was surprised to see so many people there. Utsumi ordered everyone to step back, but Musashi did not want that. With a force like this, there was no way they could restrain him anyway. He wanted them all to focus. But when he looked again, he saw them as nothing more than a group of useless fighters. Musashi was then escorted away together with Police Chief Utsumi. Miwa Takeo was the chief inspector and also a skilled swordsman. He had heard about Musashi and naturally wanted to meet him in person. Soon after, Musashi was brought there. Miwa and Musashi then had a chance to test their skills. The two would fight using bamboo swords. Miwa felt as if a monster was standing right in front of him. Musashi stepped forward toward Miwa. Without saying a word, he immediately swung his wooden sword. Miwa took the full force of the attack. Just like that, he was completely defeated. Everyone watching could only stare in shock. Musashi asked if he was allowed to go home now, because he and Utsumi had made an agreement beforehand. Suddenly, Shibukawa appeared. Musashi admitted that it had been a long time since he had seen someone like him. He saw a man whose center of balance ran straight and solid through his entire body. Shibukawa was then introduced to Musashi. He was also very happy to meet him. Both of them were masters of Japan. Utsumi wondered which of them was stronger. Shibukawa did not want to be compared to Musashi. For him, simply meeting Musashi was already a great honor. He asked to shake hands with Musashi. Musashi accepted the handshake. Suddenly, he realized that he could not pull his hand away. Musashi thought this was some kind of sorcery. Even though he tried to let go, he could not. Shibukawa declared that Musashi was already within his control. Musashi felt an extremely heavy pressure. He then collapsed onto the floor. Shibukawa mentioned Retsu's battle. He said that Retsu was his friend. Right after saying that, he punched Musashi straight in the face. Shibukawa said Musashi deserved it. Musashi stood up again. Shibukawa stated that he would not apologize. He also said this was not revenge, because Retsu would not have wanted that. He admitted he acted purely based on personal emotions. He attacked because he hated Musashi. Musashi accepted that and admitted Shibukawa's technique was impressive. They had only shaken hands evenly. Yet Musashi had been completely controlled. The pressure felt like a massive rock crushing his body. Shibukawa explained that when a warrior loses his sword in battle, he must rely on hand-to-hand grappling techniques. He continued explaining the history behind that technique, which people call Eki. Shibukawa then introduced his own name formally. He turned to speak with Utsumi and said that things had probably begun. At that exact moment, Musashi moved first. Shibukawa realized he had already been cut. He admitted that surprise attacks were truly Musashi's specialty. A true legendary trickster. A legendary samurai who had been transported to the future. Musashi released a killing intent like a volcano erupting in front of Shibukawa. He summoned both his long sword and short sword. Then he immediately rushed forward to attack Shibukawa. Shibukawa realized he had been cut again. Soon after, the intense pain caused him to collapse and lose consciousness. He only woke up when someone called out to him, just as Shibukawa had predicted. Indeed, Musashi is truly a master swordsman. Every movement he makes has not the slightest opening. Shibukawa comes forward to shake his hand and admits that he has completely lost. The two shake hands again. Shibukawa's body is covered in cuts. And Motobi then goes to find Yuhiro. The two of them drink sake and chat together. Of course, Yuhiro is very excited, because he already knows that Musashi has been causing a huge stir out there. Naturally, he also really wants to meet Musashi. Motobi advises Yuhiro not to do that, because Musashi is not an opponent Yuhiro can deal with easily. Yuhiro says that this summer's heat isn't even strong enough to drive someone crazy. He asks Motobi who could possibly handle Musashi, and Motobi gives the same answer as before. He promises he will protect everyone. This answer drives Yuhiro furious. Just as Yuhiro is about to rush in and attack Motobi, Motobi uses a smoke bomb and escapes. Yuhiro then begins to fall into deep thought, because since the day he was born, Yuhiro has never let anyone protect him. The very concept of being protected is completely foreign to Yuhiro, and that alone makes Yuhiro angry. Motobi is lucky to have escaped from Yuhiro. He himself didn't expect that he could still hold firm against the monster's rage. Motobi still decides that he will protect everyone. The next day, Yujiro goes to Tokugawa's place. Tokugawa is having tea with Musashi. Yujiro asks Tokugawa who exactly he has summoned here. Yujiro is already waiting outside the room. The two monsters finally meet face to face. And afterward they sit down to drink sake together. The two of them empty their cups together. Right now, the scene before Musashi is a mountain of money. He then asks Yujiro what he sees in him. Yujiro finds that question rather foolish. He is simply happy that the legendary swordsman Musashi is standing before him. He feels as though his dream has become reality. At this moment, Yujiro sees only Musashi and nothing else. The two continue drinking and talking together. Musashi begins recounting his glorious past. Clearly, he wanted everything: fame, admiration, and praise. He wanted to become someone who could neither hide nor escape attention. He wanted to rise higher in this world. As soon as he finishes speaking, he slashes Yujiro. Yujiro calmly continues drinking without showing any sign of pain. Musashi admits that Yuhiro's body is extremely strong and tough. It feels as if he just struck a suit of iron armor. This is the first time Musashi has been unable to cut someone. Yujiro admits that it is truly disappointing. He says the sword hasn't even been fully drawn yet. And Musashi is already claiming it can't cut or pierce anything. Yujiro then uses a single finger to slice the sake bottle clean in half. A shard of glass flies and hits Musashi in the face. Yujiro tells Tokugawa to bring Musashi his swords immediately. Musashi admits that Yujiro is truly generous. Then the two immediately head outside to the yard to fight. It has been a long time since Musashi has held a pair of swords. He immediately draws them. At that very moment, Yujiro rushes forward and grabs the sword. Yujiro warns Musashi not to be too arrogant. Yujiro delivers a straight slap across Musashi's face. Yujiro continues charging forward while still gripping the sword tightly. The two struggle with each other over the blade. Musashi admits that Yujiro is incredibly fierce. He doesn't even remember being struck. Yet he already wandered on the brink of death. This is something the martial masters of this era have taught him. Because living in an era without swords allowed them to reach that level. But that is not Musashi's swordsmanship. The two continue to clash, one holding the blade, the other gripping the hilt. Yujiro is swung along with the sword. Then they finally stop competing for control of the blade. Both of them prepare to unleash their full power without holding anything back. Tokugawa cannot contain his excitement while watching the battle. Musashi takes the initiative to attack. Yujiro counters by blocking and dodging the twin slash. His thigh is also grazed by the attack. For Yujiro, it has been a very long time since he last had to dodge an opponent's strike. The killing intent from both of them becomes incredibly intense. Like two kings of the jungle facing each other. A true clash of dragon and tiger. Tokugawa doesn't even know how to compare the two. In terms of pure power, no one in this world can match them. Absolutely no creature could possibly defeat them. Musashi charges straight toward his opponent. He intends to finish his enemy at close range. His speed is so fast it is impossible to blink in time. But suddenly, Yujiro catches Musashi's hand. Then he delivers a kick to a vital spot, forcing Musashi to pull back his sword. Even after losing consciousness, Musashi still refuses to let go of his sword. But the pain that forces it from his hand is something he has never experienced before. Tokugawa believes the outcome of the battle is already decided. Suddenly, in the midst of the pain, an idea emerges in Musashi's mind. Musashi asks for his opponent's name once again. He decides to use the unfinished secret technique he once developed in Higa on Yujiro. In the past, Musashi trained every single day. He trained to the point where he could even write without using a brush. And of course, the same applied to his sword. It could be said that he had reached the realm of no sword. Yujiro introduces himself, saying that people often call him the strongest creature on earth. Musashi admits that Yujiro is very strong. He explains that Yujiro deliberately endured direct hits just to land a kick at Musashi's vital spot. Yujiro also admits that Musashi is very strong compared to the rumors. Musashi says the rumors about him have lasted for 400 years. He truly loves that fact. He also understands that Yujiro currently stands at the very peak. Tokugawa confirms that this is indeed true. The man standing before them is the very pinnacle of strength in this world. Suddenly, Musashi sheaths his swords. Then he returns both swords to Tokugawa. After that, he steps back into the battle. Musashi sees this moment as another opportunity for advancement. Even though he is still in pain, Musashi can continue fighting, and so the battle between the two resumes. Even without swords in his hands, Musashi's bare hands become two sharp blades. Musashi feels that everything is going perfectly. The right moment is about to arrive. Yujiro also realizes that his opponent has reached the realm of the swordless. Musashi attacks again. Suddenly, Motobi interrupts the fight. Yujiro becomes furious at Motobi's actions. He immediately punches Motobi for daring to step in and protect the great Hanma Yujiro. Musashi also stops Yujiro. Tokugawa wants the same thing. He asks Yujiro to calm down because the one who interfered is Motobi. This battle has not yet determined a winner. Motobi regains consciousness after a while. He remembers that he had just been slashed by Musashi. Tokugawa thinks Motobi's actions were extremely dangerous. The two fighters have already disappeared somewhere. Motobi believes that if he had not intervened, Yujiro would have been cut down. He thinks everyone's understanding of martial arts is too shallow. That is exactly why someone like Motobi is needed. Tokugawa listens but still doesn't fully understand. Motobi throws a dagger and kills a cockroach with it. He then promises that in the next fight he will personally defeat Musashi. Yujiro and Musashi go walking through the streets together. Everyone around them stares at the two of them. Musashi is surprised that Yujiro is so famous. Yujiro replies that Musashi is the same way. Tokugawa finally understands Motobi's intentions. Motobi is a practitioner of traditional martial arts and insists that he can defeat Musashi. He is willing to fight under special rules and use any weapon he wants. Motobi asks Tokugawa to prepare everything, saying he is certain he can do it. Musashi and Yujiro go out to drink whiskey together. They continue talking and sharing stories. Yujiro clearly explains Motobi's character to Musashi. Musashi admits that among all the opponents he has fought, Motobi has the most tricks. Earlier, Motobi had already prepared several hidden weapons on his body. In short, Motobi is a master of weapon usage. Motobi can use weapons anywhere at any time. Yujiro admits that Motobi is a formidable opponent. He now places his expectations on Musashi. Gaia goes to meet his master. The two have not seen each other for a long time. They return to the dojo together. After chatting for a while, Motobi suggests that they spar with each other. Gaia gladly accepts his master's challenge. Like master, like student, Gaia also uses dirty tricks that Motobi once taught him. After exchanging a few words, Gaia launches another attack. He plans to play dirty against his teacher again. But this time Motobi anticipates it and immediately knocks Gaia to the floor. Gaia immediately admits defeat. Afterward, Motobi ties him up with a belt. Motobi even pulls down his pants afterward. And the master and student laugh together happily. Jack goes to Tokugawa's house. At this point, Jack is 2 meters 43 centimeters tall and weighs 201 kilograms. Of course, Jack has come here to meet Musashi. Tokugawa says someone else wants to meet Musashi before Jack does. Jack soon learns that the person is Motobi. Motobi refuses to allow Jack to fight Musashi. Tokugawa suggests that Jack try fighting Motobi instead. Indeed, Motobi is a very mysterious person, and no one truly understands him. Tokugawa realizes he has been too careless. He asks Jack whether he knows how to use weapons. Jack admits that he does not, though he has some experience. Tokugawa wants Jack to give Motobi a taste of his power. That very night, Jack goes to find Motobi. The two of them run into each other right on the street. Motobi admits that Jack has grown much bigger than before. After exchanging a few greetings, they immediately start fighting. Motobi plays dirty by flicking the cigarette in his hand straight into Jack's face. Then he immediately rushes in and kicks Jack right in the face. Jack becomes extremely excited because this is what a real fight should look like. Motobi continues by pulling out a weapon and attacking Jack again. This time he strikes both of Jack's legs, causing him intense pain. Motobi is surprised that even while kneeling, Jack still looks enormous. Just as Jack tries to stand up, Motobi smashes a stick straight into his head. Jack falls face first to the ground again. But in reality, Jack is only pretending. Jack immediately rolls and jumps back to his feet. Jack decides to allow Motobi to keep using weapons. This time, Jack successfully takes off his shirt. Tokugawa had warned him that Motobi is completely different in a real fight. Jack admits that Motobi fights like a highly trained warrior. Jack asks him not to underestimate athletes. Motobi considers athletes to be a threat to martial artists. As soon as he finishes speaking, Jack launches a powerful kick directly at Motobi. Motobi is blown far away by the impact. When Jack looks down, he realizes his leg has been stabbed by a dagger. He pulls the dagger out. Motobi continues approaching him. People on the street think the two are filming a movie. The battle continues again. Jack launches a downward kick from above. Motobi plays dirty again and pulls out a weapon to defend himself. He praises Jack's terrifying bone density. Because otherwise, Jack's foot would have been cut off. Jack rushes forward and bites into Motobi's shoulder with his teeth. But surprisingly, Motobi is completely unharmed. He even thinks that the usual Jack would have bitten straight through the bone. He says the bite is powerful. But it is not martial arts. Motobi pulls his shoulder away, causing all of Jack's teeth to break. Motobi had already prepared armor made from dramid fibers to counter Jack's bites. This material is used for parachute cords and radial tires. He has completely neutralized Jack's most dangerous weapon. Motobi believes the fight should end here. Because Jack has lost everything he needs to continue fighting. Ending the battle now would be reasonable. Jack becomes furious at these words. He immediately charges forward to attack again. Motobi now sees Jack like a lion that has lost its fangs. Or a bear that has lost its claws. Jack still manages to corner Motobi and throws punch after punch. The people on the street think the situation is extremely dangerous. Motobi pulls out a smoke bomb again. But this time he cannot escape from Jack. He is shocked that Jack refuses to stop. Even more surprising, Jack is actually accelerating. Motobi kicks Jack straight in the face. Jack suddenly smells explosives coming from Motobi's body. Motobi admits that Jack is a terrifying natural-born warrior. He has been punched so hard by Jack that he didn't even notice the explosion. Motobi thinks he should increase the amount of explosives next time. He then throws hidden weapons at Jack again. After that, he ties Jack up with chains. Motobi decides to fight with everything he has. He launches a series of relentless attacks on Jack. Jack is forced to endure constant weapon strikes in pain. Motobi then breaks Jack's arm. The arm is completely useless now. He takes a rope and ties both of Jack's arms together. Motobi declares that he has won the fight. He says he has the right to take lives. Whether he kills or spares his opponent is his own decision. He leaves the scene, abandoning Jack on the ground. But he still says that he will be the one protecting Jack. Recently, not a single carp has been seen in the Kanda River. Everyone is surprised because carp used to be everywhere. That night, a fisherman goes out to fish. Suddenly something enormous bites his hook. He struggles to reel it in, but the fishing line suddenly snaps. He thinks it might be a huge tuna. But suddenly, a monster appears. The next day, news spreads about a boat that was twisted and broken in half. The story quickly becomes the center of public attention. Police and reporters arrive at the scene to investigate the cause. Then the monster appears once again. The reporter has no idea what is happening. And that monster turns out to be a gigantic crocodile. Even more interesting, Pickle is hunting it. This crocodile has eaten all the carp in the river, which is why it has grown extremely large. But in Pickle's eyes, it is only a small dinosaur. And of course, it will become one of Pickle's meals. Pickle drags the crocodile into a sewer tunnel and disappears. The news about the crocodile and Pickle becomes the main topic the next day. After watching the news, Musashi immediately slashes the TV. Tokugawa thinks that is a foolish thing to do, because it was only footage recorded by a camera. Musashi wants to know who the man in the video is. Tokugawa tells him that it is Pickle, the strongest male from the Cretaceous period, a dinosaur hunter who hunted them for food. He also explains the story of how Pickle appeared in the modern world. Musashi then asks where Pickle is now. Tokugawa ends up getting slashed as well. Musashi finds Pickle very interesting. A man whose power has not yet been fully refined. In some ways, he feels Pickle is similar to himself. So Musashi asks Tokugawa to arrange a meeting with Pickle. Motobi has also learned the news that Pickle has appeared. He guesses that Musashi definitely will not ignore this situation. Motobi realizes that he has forgotten something. Because Pickle cannot be left unprotected either. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to support me. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episodes. Love you all.